Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to It's Clobbering Time. So here we are. We're going to get back to the normal It's Clobbering Time. We're going to have two fictional characters battle it out. So we're going to do with the Hulk and Solomon Grundy. Hope Tony shows up. He's the one who knows everything about Solomon Grundy. I'm sure Marcus and I could talk about the Hulk all night long.
Well, I know a little about Solomon Grundy.
Yeah.
Born on a Monday.
Yep. Born on a Monday. I've always
See,
liked.
look, I was trying to show you before. I'm wearing a purple shirt just for you.
There you go. I'm wearing
My work uses purple shirts.
I'm wearing my.
Got it in my yellow shirt. I feel like a landscaper in my high res shirt. So
I'm wearing my thing shirt.
in fact, I will suffice to say I think purple is a color. Purple and magenta, they're kind of overused at this point. I think the coloring in the late '90s opened up to all different colors that weren't used before, which is fine. But I think it's overused in a lot of ways, backgrounds and stuff. But
It's funny because I agree with you. I'm looking through comics, and now that I'm making comics, I'm paying attention to stuff. And yeah, purple, magenta,
purple, a lot of light oranges. They're all like the background, the comics that we talk about on It's Clobbering Time. Then we're thinking about all are big primary because they couldn't use all those colors. And that's why, the bad guys generally wore purple, and the good guys generally wore red and blue in primary colors. Green was a bad guy's color too. The Hulk, because he's an anti-hero, they weren't sure if he was a hero, so he ended up green, like that type of thing. That's why that whole controversy was silly because it had nothing to do with. Now, if he was wearing pinkish and salmon, then you could call them kind of gay colors, but he wasn't. They're not. So,
Speaking of coloring, I'm gonna share my screen. I want to show this. So this is Marcus's art. This is
I'm so surprised you posted that.
So this is the last page of the first public eye story. It was a 6-page. Let me see the character. Let's explore a little bit. Let's see if Marcus, because I gave Marcus try to be as Ditko-esque as possible. So now I think you nailed it. It's exactly what I pictured. So the next story will be meteor. But this is just poinsettia and public eye meet, right? But I love that poster. So I asked Oscar when he colors it, can we kind of mimic a 60s 70s palette? I wonder if Oscar could do like a dot matrix.
Well, what I did on this was I wanted to see the public eye, so I didn't do a fancy, like whatever Oscar does in the sky is what he does in the sky. I'm not going to do the sky and try to surround him so you see him mostly. That is a Ditko hand. Like that is a lift from Ditko.
Ditko does all.
Yeah, that's from a famous Mr. A hand. And the rest of it's just a piece. And then the foot lifted up, I saw somewhere else. That's not that. You don't see it that much. And I don't seem to make what you asked for. I mean, and put the smoke stuff if he wants to do something like that. In the back. I didn't want to put anything to get in the way of.
Oh, that's perfect. That's done. Finished. I really liked it. I mean that's like a poster right there. Maybe I'll make a poster of it or something.
Every time I do Science City, I feel like I have to put a Zeppelin in the background.
Yeah. It works. Yeah. So I was because I have the story that explains why there's Zeppelins and stuff like that.
I love that there's Zeppelins. That is very cool.
In the Mary Sue story, not spoiler because I already talked about it. In the Mary Sue story, you met Philip Manning. Philip Manning is like the billionaire industrialist.
Right, Philip, I remember.
Him and his partner built Science City. And then, like a politician, Lucius Kane came in and glommed onto it after it was already built, because that's what politicians do. So now Philip Manning and Lucius Kane are kind of like the powers of Science City. One's the Lex Luthor, and one's the I don't know who like the Kingpin or whatever. So
right.
Philip Manning is the evil industrialist. Lucius Kane is the evil politician, and there's a couple of other evil guys. Marcus knows because I was telling him, but we'll be quiet about that. But Philip Manning he's the money guy. There was another guy who was his silent partner who was a good guy, and Philip Manning has like a love of like Art Deco and old school stuff, and he was kind of teased about it when he was presenting his ideas, and the architect was completely way out. So this was their compromise, and I wrote that story. It's called Whatever Happened to Ian Strange, and I'm hoping that could be in Heroic Tales 5. I hope I can make it to 5 because that's my favorite story that I wrote. It's just the history of the city itself as told through a news article written by Regina Lopez, the crazy woman that stalks the patriarch. It's so good. It's so good. So it's got some really. I think that is like, I don't know. That's the kind of story I wanted to tell at the beginning.
Yeah, I think so. If anybody didn't get Heroic, if you even beyond Heroic Tales 1, you have to get Heroic Tales 2. That's like the key issue.
Yeah,
Heroic Tales 2 Mary's story really sets everything up.
So Heroic Tales 3 is going to be the second part of Mary Sue that completely explains what happened in issue number 1, because I still got people that didn't quite understand it. I don't know if that's my fault or whatever, but
people don't pay attention.
So issue number 3 explain, and then I'm going to introduce the Raven. Right. So and then issue number 4 will be the second Raven story. No, I'm wrong. Issue 3 is going to be the Sleeper Agent because it's already done.
That's right.
And the second Mary Sue story. Issue 4 will be Raven and the second Sleeper Agent story. I'm hoping because I'm trying to get it. I want to follow the pattern of 2 stories for every character. And then I don't know, but I got so much stuff. By then we'll have a whole bunch of public eye stories. I am having a blessed day. Today was a good day. It was nice and cool at work. Oh man, it's been an unbearably hot day at work. I'm sure it's even worse down by you.
It's about the same. It's fine today. It's been raining the last 2 days, so driving's been a real pain in the neck. And I'm going 3 hours one way, 3 hours back. I'm like a 15-minute fix.
I'm starting to lose my temper over my drive home because I'm tired. I listen to music, but I'm tired of all my music. You know what I mean? I'm just tired of all my music. So, and then I put on silence for a while, and then I get mad. So I play YouTube videos of stuff, but I'm getting tired of, the people I listen to. So I need to expand my circle, but I can't do that while I'm driving. And I don't think of looking up.
You don't think it at home. I find that sometimes I listen to a lot of talking, and then it just gets to drone. Right. And then I switch to music, and then, but I do it. You never get used to it, like the 3 hours. I don't have the stop and go traffic. At the end of my drives, I do. On the way back, but not like you do. But still, it's long, like 3 hours, and that's like nothing. Oh, well, it's only 3 hours away, and like that's a big deal. But I do it all the time.
Master Ped says that black and white art looks awesome. It will be colored, Oscar. Marcus just submitted this the other day, so we actually have 2 public eye stories done. A 2-page story that I was going to send to. It came out on a Wednesday for Pete Samedi's comic, but that didn't happen. But that I can't tell that because that's already poinsettia in the public eye as friends.
They're already that's right.
They're already friends in that story, so that'll be around third or fourth. Well, I'll save that till I need 2 pages, for a comic.
If they want to know, like I think of everything in black and white. I don't really think of color. I think of just like the old school, like black and white. It's going to look good in black and white and look good in color. I think that enhances the color. All this other stuff you see, and this is my line art, and then I can't see it because nobody's surrounded the characters in black, spotting blacks. It's called, right? And then you really can't see the work in the line art until the color. You're leaving it to the colorist. I don't leave it to the colorist. He can enhance that, but inking. There's no inkers anymore with thick and thin lines. It's just they let the colors do it, and that goes through like indie comics and professional comics, probably a little worse in mainstream.
It's because of working digital as opposed to
it's working digital, and it's just the coloring, the modern coloring. If you go back to you guys like Graham Nolan doesn't, or for example, he does all his stuff is spotted blacks, just like it works in black and white and in color. Aaron Lopresti does a lot of blacks. Like when you think of the better artists, the older artists. The newer ones, it's all open. It's open for color. They look rather crosshatch something. I just don't do that. I mean, it makes me look like an old school artist. What can I tell you?
I'm not going to answer this because we're going to wait till we actually get into it. But I just want to talk about the second part. They retconned the Hulk and other gamma mutates. Mutants, when they're born that way, mutates have become later in life. I know it's a nerdy differentiation, but that's what we're here for. That's what this whole.
Well, I did read a lot of the Immortal Hulk, so I kind of know that part.
So this is what they're connected to the devil.
He connected it to the devils after, like the Immortal Hulk. They went to a door. Then there was the Devil Hulk, like of gamma. So nobody who had gamma radiation could die. They always were resurrected. So the idea was the writer, what's his name? Forgot his name. British guy decided that every time the Hulk died, like we thought the Hulk died, he really did die. He just came back to life. And in the history of the Hulk, and he used to do this in the back of the comic, it would be like 7. It's about 7 times the Hulk, like and you or Bruce Banner died. Somebody killed him, and then the Hulk comes back because the gamma radiation brings him back. And that goes for Betty Banner, Doc Samson, Sasquatch, the leader. It got very complicated. It was interesting.
I don't know. I haven't read the story. This is the first I'm hearing of it. My gut reaction is, what does gamma radiation have to do with Satan? You know what I mean? But
well, it wasn't really Satan, but that's at the end. I have to reread the end of it.
Yeah. So
most of it was more science fiction-y. And it was interesting.
I gotta check this out. It sounds up my alley. John, is the Christmas issue included in your 5 issues? Is that a side story? The Christmas issue just it came out of people liking King Fu. So I said King Fu wasn't on the schedule as far as I have like 10 issues kind of planned, depending upon the artist. How like the Printer's Devil wasn't planned, but Stipling Vaughn wanted to work with me, and I thought that story. So I made up a story that would go with his art. So whatever he's done, I'll just jam that in. That's not scheduled. That doesn't fit into the grand scheme of things. But I do like that it adds colonial America into my world. But anyway, the King Fu people, I was like, I got to do something with King Fu. So I wanted to do Christmas specials anyway, and the Santa Claus story that I was working on is turning out to be a bigger project than I expected.
Yeah.
So I there's no way I would have gotten it done in time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do a short King Fu story. I wrote the story. It was only 16 pages. Nobody's going to back a 16-page comic book. So I wrote the Patriarch story, another 6 pages. I put in a letters page. And now I had to use an ad from Brian Bow that I just didn't have room for in issue 2 because it has to be divisible by 4. And I also needed one more page to make a double page spread work. You know what I mean? So it's just, I made a rookie mistake. I got to keep, when I write a double page spread, I got to keep track of what it's going to be when you open up the physical comic. I didn't do that. So that's what it's going to be. So it's 16 plus 6, that's 22. So it's 28 pages. It's 118 degrees here. Where are you, Lord Nemo? Can't wait.
Arizona.
You're in Arizona?
I'm guessing from his avatar.
Science City is near Yuma. So they're hot over at Science City all the time.
People back them all the time.
Yeah, people would. People back what they're interested in.
It's like John's pricing. It's the perceived value of the comic. If you're doing a 28-page, 32-page comic, maybe you don't want it to be $25. But if you're doing 60 pages, 70 pages, 80 pages, what is the perceived value of that comic?
Correct.
It's not going to be $10 or $15.
Value is a weird thing. Like the Graybeards. These guys are legit pros. These guys are legends. So they can charge more. I can't command those prices. I'm nobody.
Well, I completely agree with you. Agree with you.
So plus that's what they do for a living. You know what I mean? They have a pedigree, and I don't blame them. So
well, I did want to say I drew the King Fu when you were on drawing enemies.
Yeah, I would. It
was fun as heck. Man, I could see why.
I could see because I needed one more page. I considered putting that in as the front page. Just I was going to put your image on the front.
Yeah, you whatever. I said it to you.
Just write like this is King Fu. This is the history of King Fu, and then I was thinking of doing like a historical of the real Operation Barrel Roll, because that's referenced in the story. Operation Barrel Roll is this whole King Fu is story is inspired by Operation Barrel Roll. That's hard for me to say, which really happened when the American forces invaded, snuck into. I guess invaded is a harsh word. Snuck into Laos because they were looking for supply lines for the Viet Cong before the war, before officially the war started. That's the inspiration for my story, because I wanted it to be a location that's not explored. This area in Laos is still unexplored today. You know, it's harder and harder to find hidden locations on the earth.
No,
You know, you can't just have Mesquite, Illinois, an evil temple in Mesquite, Illinois anymore. People know about it. So that's the inspiration. So I was going to write like an article about that, but then I was like, oh, I got this cool fake ad that Brian.
Yeah,
Bauer
that gets better, I think.
So I put that in. That for two reasons. Like Brian Bauer or Fabrizio Aiello and Matt Bauer always had something in my comics.
Oh, I know.
And Wolf and Batsy now are officially in every issue of Heroic Tales. You know, in some capacity or not. I'll let you guys wonder about what the ad is going to be about. The only thing is, it's going to be like there's going to be like 4 pages of story, and then I had to put the ad in so that when you turn the double page spread, it works. So I asked Bill to write on the bottom, story continues after next page, like they used to do in the 60s.
Like they used to do. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm kind of happy. Matter of fact, Bill just sent me the digital version, so I got to go over that, make sure it's okay. And I'm thinking I'll start sending out the visual. If this digital version is okay, I'll start sending out the digital version right away. I'm hoping to drum up some interest so people, you know, we need more backers on well, we need more backers anywhere, but I need $99 more on Kickstarter. So you are in Arizona, cool. Stippling Gordon,
yes, by the way.
Your ears must have been burning because I was just talking about you. Marcus, are you going to Sumter next month?
I wasn't thinking about it. I'm looking at it now. Maybe. Sure.
Is that a comic convention?
Let's see how far it is. Yeah, it's a comic and art show. It looks like it's August 29th.
Oh, cool. Because I already talked about that, but every episode, somebody's first episode, not everybody watches. Vaughn Coleman asked me to join him. I will be at a TropicCon August 14th and 15th. This summer is going to be my first convention. I'm
nice.
A little nervous, a little excited, and I'm glad to be with a veteran like Vaughn. He's been doing comic conventions for like every weekend for like a year now, and he's killing it. I wonder if Paul Thayer will be there. If Paul Thayer will be there, there'll be no money for anybody else to buy anything. That guy can sell water to Aquaman.
I bought a comic. I bought it from Paul Thayer. I have his comic.
Yeah,
I bought it.
I like his comics.
Yeah, it was good. It's a good comic.
Yeah, it's a good comic.
To South Main Street. I'll look this up.
Oh, I just got a message that Final Girl season 4 is being shipped. So I might later on tonight do a gaming stream. I might play Marvel United Fantastic Four versus Galactus solo play because I needed another cable. I reset up my desk so that I could ship books from here, and I needed another cable because right here I got my printer, I got my scale, I got everything here because whenever I fulfill a book, I had to bring everything on that table. But now I got it all rearranged. I could do everything from right here, and I needed another cable so I could stream from over there because my laptop is not powerful enough to do live. It freezes, so I got to run here, run the cable, and then I'll open up the laptop so at least I can see the chat, but I won't be able to do like stream live, bring everything up.
2 hours? I could probably go there and back.
So stippling, in case you were wondering, we were talking about artist stuff, and I was talking about how your art style, I think it's just so perfect for that colonial America. It's a story that I sent you. But cable is the worst. Why did you need? Oh yeah, the cable. I needed a cable.
I could make it. I could make the cables. You know, I have all the tools and everything. I'm sure you could too.
Yeah, that's what we used. It's one of those electrical things that we used to do. That no extension cords were allowed on a job.
You used to make your own extension cords, yeah.
So we would have to make extension cords and then sell them to the other trades, $40 a cord. So the oldest guy on the job would just make extension cords all day long. You know, from SJ cable and like the cords, and it was just a racket. You know,
that's funny.
Yeah. John is selling out to the big fruit pie industry.
Fruit pies are evil.
Fruit pies are evil. That's one of the things I was thinking. Kid Gimmick is going to offer somebody a Twinkie to stop fighting this. Yeah, I can't help but start thinking of silly characters like Kid Gimmick, and now Kid Gimmick is going to have a team of kid superheroes. I got like a whole bunch of kid superheroes with them, and then I've been thinking of I don't know why people might get offended, but I was on with Mugen Lord at Heroinburg last night. We were talking about making racist comics, and you know, the only rule for racist comics is if you're white, you can't write white characters. You can only write like Jews or blacks or Hindus. You know what I mean? You can't write your own. So I was like, I want to write Kung Fu Jew, and now I can't help but think Kung Fu Jew would be a fun comic.
You could team up with King Fu.
GPS, you'll have to drive right by my house into town. There you go. You could pick up stippling on the way.
I could.
So we're waiting for Tony, but I guess it's too early for Tony, and we're already been on for a half hour. So I don't need to bring that up anymore. So I guess we'll start with the Hulk then. You want to talk about the Hulk?
The Hulk we can do off the top of our heads. We don't have to look anything up, right?
Yeah, I'm just getting a good picture, and I'm getting the Kirby picture to start it out with. Okay, you want to start talking about the Hulk?
Sure. Well, the Hulk, as we know, is Bruce Banner, Robert Bruce Banner, because at one point, Stan Lee thought his name was Bob, and this is created in the height of the commie scare. There he is. That's like one of my favorite pictures of the Hulk. It was Bruce Banner was developing the Gamma bomb for Thunderbolt Ross and the Army. Although sometimes Thunderbolt Ross was in the Air Force, they're very confused by that.
Yeah, I noticed that once. I thought I imagined that.
Yeah, if you look at the Wikipedia site, they just the continuity is very loose at the beginning. Anyway, so Thunderbolt Ross is making fun of Bruce Banner. He's a milksop, wimpy, a scientist, not a tough guy. But his daughter Betty Ross is in love with him. And what his assistant was Igor, right? Igor.
Yeah.
And but little did they know that he was a Russian spy. And
you'd think a guy named Igor.
You think they would have figured that out?
Like he would have vetted Igor a little more.
As you say in Sunday Comics, plot. And so they're counting down to the gamma radiation, the gamma bomb, and he sets it off to go too fast, to explode too fast. And Rick Jones, on a bet from his buddies, decides to sneak in and hang out where the bomb is going to be. So he's sitting there in his jalopy playing a harmonica. I think I'm right by that, by the way. Yeah. And he's stuck out there, and Bruce Banner, wimpy milksop, doesn't do anything, sees him and says, "Oh my God, I got to go save him!" And he sprints out to save him, and he pushes Rick Jones into a ditch to save him, which shouldn't have saved him when you think about it, right?
Right.
But in 1962, we didn't know about all this stuff, and Bruce Banner takes the brunt of the explode and screams for 18 hours straight.
Yeah, I always like that I'm going to get that image. That's one of my favorite comic book images of all time. But the whole concept that he was screaming for 18 hours, man, that is, I don't know,
that's a long time. Yeah, that's
a long time.
That's brutal, right? Yeah. And this is coming off of Stan and Jack's run on all these monster books, so it has that feeling. I think it's inked by Raymond, I think that's inked by Paul Raymond, who co-created Solomon Grundy, as a matter of fact. And all of a sudden he's sitting there screaming. Finally comes out of it, and he looks fine. But they have a Geiger counter there because that's what they used to use. And as soon as the sun goes down, it goes tick 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 tick, and he turns into the gray Hulk. He was gray. And at night, and breaks out of the house. And the only one who knows this is Rick Jones. Nobody knows that he's the Hulk, and he starts wrecking stuff. The Jeep runs into him. a whole bunch of things happen, and nobody knows what this is, and what are they going to do? And Thunderbolt rolls. What is this Hulk? And that's how the Hulk got his name.
That's one of the greatest names in comic books. I got it. Hulk is just the perfect name.
Well, they had used it for another character,
correct,
earlier, and they don't waste anything. And the Hulk in his first 6 issues was very confused. Very confused. They didn't really know what to do with him, so he turned at night, and you see the reprints are green because the gray really didn't work. It was very muddy, so they changed his coloring to green. And by the 3rd issue, he was controlled by, I think the 3rd or 4th issue, controlled by Rick Jones. He was kind of cunning and smart. He was not stupid. He wasn't a genius like Bruce Banner, but turning him at night, and they tried to turn. And they sent him just in the first 6 issues. They sent him into space, like they sent him into space in the late 60s, and they sent him into space in the 70s, and they sent him into space in the 80s. And Planet Hulk happened. Everybody sends the Hulk into space, and he came back, and he was actually controlled by Rick Jones. Rick Jones could tell him what to do.
If I remember correctly, to me I've always said that's a sign that they. But first off, look at this image. Isn't that's one of my favorite, that's one of my favorite comic book panels of all time. As an aside of nothing, when I was a school teacher, I swiped it up. You know those projectors that they used to have old school? You put a ditto and it would project it onto the screen?
Overhead projector, yeah.
The overhead projector. I swiped one of those. I wonder where it is. It's not in this house. I must have thrown it away. And I printed this out, and I was going to paint that on just a big canvas. Like what's his name? Roy Lichtenstein. Who's that?
Lichtenstein, Roy Lichtenstein.
Yeah. I just love that panel. But anyway, I'll say, and Tony, welcome to the show. You just came in mid explanation. We're talking about the Hulk, obviously. I feel that they didn't know what to do with the Hulk.
Didn't know what to do.
I think those issues of the Hulk and Fantastic Four, Marvel, not DC. Marvel was didn't know what to do. They were gambling because the Hulk was a monster. The Marvel Comics was famous for publishing monster comics. He was almost a bad guy. He was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. At night, he turned into the Hulk, and he wasn't a superhero. He was a borderline bad guy. And then the Fantastic Four, they didn't have costumes. There was a monster prominently on the cover. The Thing was acted kind of creepy and suspicious. Reed was just dicky is the only way to describe it.
Wow, Reed always been dicky, by the way, since then too.
Yeah, he was kind of an asshole for the first 10 issues of the Fantastic.
He was an asshole for the whole run that Stan wrote him.
And the Visible Girl might as well have not been there, And Johnny Storm was the only normal one. So Marvel was hedging their bets. Are we going superheroes or are we going monsters? And I think the Hulk could have went anyway. But it was issue 2. He still transformed at night. But by issue 3, if you remember, he had to push that button. He was, like he had this plan.
Yeah, he had to push the button, right.
And he would get hit. So he was in control of it. And he was kind of sinister, but doing good deeds. Like he and if I remember correctly, that's when Steve Ditko was taking over the Hulk.
In issue 6. So like the Hulk, Rick Jones controlled the Hulk, and then when the Hulk, he fell asleep and the Hulk tore up the Circus of Crime. I love that issue. I love that just the easy power of the Hulk. Then, like he wasn't big giant. Usually, like they have to draw him gigantic. Later, he got bigger and bigger. But like those early issues, he just looked like a piece of clay who could destroy everything. Like what did Byrne call him? A slab Hulk. Just looked like a big wrestler, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he fought the Toadmen, and they just didn't know what to do. And I think that in the early Avengers 2, Kirby thought the Hulk could fly.
Right. I was going to talk about that.
Because Larry Lieber has those pages where he could fly. He was stuck in the hospital, which makes no sense either. No wonder those were torn up and thrown away. But he could fly, and that's why there's positions of him, even with the Ditko issues and Tales of Astonish, or he turns in air, and nobody could do that. And they're having the office making him look like he jumps because Stan didn't want him to fly. And they were just completely confused. And the last issue, he has Banner's head, and he puts on a Hulk mask because they're always changing him back to Banner like 17 times.
Right, I remember that.
Always at Banner's. That's another thing that's not new. Banner's mind and Hulk. Banner's mind. And he was really nasty in that last issue, and he was nasty in those early Avengers issues too. That's why he quit in issue 2. People now, modern people, haven't read all those books, think the Hulk was always an Avenger. Only he was in 2 issues of the Avengers.
Yeah, he was in 2 issues of the Avengers, and 50% of those issues he was the foe.
Yeah, well, they had to go look for him because he's so dangerous.
Well, yeah, they didn't they fight him in issue 2?
In issue 3, they fought him with the Submariners.
Oh, issue 3,
they go to the world by ourselves. Again, as Tony, inked by Paul Raymond, who co-created the Solomon Grundy.
So,
yep.
See, I know stuff. Yeah, some stuff I know.
So Steve Ditko, he only drew issue 6 of the original.
He drew issue 6 of the original 6. He inked 1 issue over Kirby, but he wrote the Tales to Astonish issues when he took over Tales to Astonish, that famous thing. And it was when Ditko created the Hulk turns when he gets upset. When Banner gets upset, he turns to the Hulk. That was the Steve Ditko. Well, that was in the Steve Ditko issues. And when the Hulk got too stressed out, he used to turn back into Banner, which doesn't make any sense, but that's what they did when he's fighting the Ruskies over there.
Yeah.
And that's also when the madder Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets. Not in so many words, but a lot of the modern Hulk is created by Steve Ditko.
Yeah,
Right.
and that to me is when Hulk took off.
To Tales to Astonish, you said Ditko's inked by Coletta and Giacoya and Ayers. Like every issue is a different inker. Joe Russo's.
This is my favorite.
That's when they created the leader, was in those issues.
This is my favorite single issue of the Hulk of all time. Last year I bought a copy of this, in really good condition too. I love this is the earliest Hulk comic that I have. But that is just so great. I always remember this as a kid. Tony, you probably don't remember these, but Marcus, you got to remember they had these little pocketbook editions of like.
Oh yeah, I had them.
Yeah, like you could literally stick them in your pocket. They were, and they were
Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and the Hulk, and I think Fantastic Four, or am I misremembering?
I think Fantastic Four too, but I never had Fantastic Four.
I remember reading those over and over again. The funny thing is, I read, and they had early Spider-Mans too, and I was reading them, Doctor Strange, and I loved Ditko, and I loved this issue. And then when I got introduced to Ditko in the 80s with like Machine Man, and
it wasn't the same.
I was like, this guy Ditko, he's the worst. Like, oh my! And it's funny because I learned Ditko's name by how much I hated his second return to Marvel. That Micronauts annual is like still one of my most hated.
You know which one I didn't like? The Fantastic Four annual.
Oh, which one is that?
That he did like 16. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, in retrospect, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
The first appearance of Squirrel Girl is just everything about that. The art.
Yeah, no, I was out by then.
Everything sucked. That was
Tales to Astonish 60 is when they started creating like what we see. The Hulk he gets mad, he gets stronger as he gets angrier. Banner gets upset, turns to the Hulk. Not at night. They used to give him like pills to keep him calm.
When would you say the Hulk, Tony? Marcus, when would you say that the Hulk started taking off? Because these first 6 issues, I thought they were classics. I thought they were really good, but I'm biased because I had that book as a little kid. So anything that you read when you're 10 years old, it sticks with you for life. But I told you I bought a collection and I finally plugged in holes in the collection. So I'm reading. I think I'm up to Doc Samson just appeared. So I'm around 170. So I've read every Hulk from this issue, Tales to Astonish, to 170 of its regular run, and I gotta say it's really bad. When does like the Hulk become a good character?
Well, I would say he got big with Lou Ferrigno. I think the TV show, which was a decent TV show. I mean, it was a little low budget, but that's when he became a household name. That's when more people. But you're right, John. The comics were wildly inconsistent. They were.
The Hulk got canceled, he immediately guest starred in Avengers. He immediately guest starred in Fantastic Four. And then that famous crossover where he fought the Thing, who's stronger, like in the early one. And so they put him back into Tales to Astonish. And I think that he took over. Like he was more popular than Namor. There was Namor and Giant Man. And they thought Namor was the one they thought that the Submariner was going to be the one, not the Hulk. And the Hulk comic, the the ones that you think are so that was the one character that little kids really liked is the Hulk, and
Yeah,
it was
every
well
kid
drawn and
liked
well
the Hulk.
told.
Every
Well
kid
drawn
liked
and
the
well
Hulk.
told.
The whole rage, it's okay. The whole rage thing, because it became like little kids, like I'm the Hulk. You know, they get angry and whatever. Like I think the Hulk was like everybody, every little boy at least, you know, identified with the Hulk.
You know, and the early ones that when Marie Severin and Herb Trimpe and Roy Thomas were writing were a little deeper. But after that lost, then it was the extra book that Len Wein did, the extra book that Jerry Conway did, and they would a whole year's worth, and it'd be one really good issue, like written, and the rest of it was him fighting a whole bunch of things. But Wolverine out of that becomes they don't know what to do, so he fights Wendigo, and Wolverine gets in. Is that a great comic? I don't know, but Herb Trimpe every month the same story, easily to read.
It was literally the same. Yeah,
Powerful.
The same story. He fights Thunderbolt Ross, and then like, oh, he's going to go to Latvia and fight Doctor Doom. So they have some convoluted reason why he goes to, and then the next issue, the first 3 pages, Hulk just rides a jet plane back to Arizona and then fights the military.
You know, I think that the Hulk got better. The comics got better when it was Bill Mantlo and Sal Buscema.
Yeah,
when Sal Buscema took over, kind of broke the Herb Trimpe things. They were trying a little. It's hard to get the Hulk to places like you were just saying. Get washed up on the beach and fight some pirates. And those issues are better than the Herb Trimpe. They're a little deeper.
Yeah, I'm just about to start those. I'm looking forward.
Roger Stern decided, they brought Doc Samson back to psychoanalyze him in the late 70s and early 80s. Buscema did him through the 80s with Mantlo. And the Cross. They tried to do different things. The UFOs, a little more science fiction. I think it was a little better. And I think the real popular version of Hulk is Peter David. John Byrne, and leaving his ideas for Peter David. Because none of Peter David's ideas weren't Byrne's. They were Byrne's ideas, right? Those 6 issues.
Peter David was first before Byrne.
No, Byrne was.
Byrne was first?
Byrne took over the Hulk. He lasted about 6 issues. And then Al Milgrom took over and made him gray because that's what Byrne was going to do that. Then Peter David did a couple fill-ins, and it was Peter David, and then Peter David, Todd McFarlane, and then Jeff Purvis, Dale Keown. At the end of Peter David's run was terrible because he was bitter and upset that his wife divorced. He had a bad divorce, so he killed Betty Brant, and it got very personal. So the last year of his 8-year run wasn't any good, but all that before that with Keown and then Gary Frank are terrific comics.
I love Gary Frank's art. I'm gonna catch us up to the comments now because I was just loving all of that history. Marcus, do you guys have I can't read anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. I can read it if you want. My eyes and my mouth and my tongue is too big for my mouth now. Do you guys have a preference for the various looks of the Hulk? He's gone from looking like a blocky Frankenstein monster to a pro bodybuilder and so on. My favorite version of the Hulk, the way he looks, is that Jack Kirby drawing. What was it, Fantastic Four 25, when the Thing fights the Hulk? What is the one when I'll look it up, but the Hulk and the Thing are like up against the wall underground? I don't know. That just looks good. Marcus, Tony, what's your favorite?
I like the Kirby Hulk is my favorite Hulk. I like other Hulks, but I like the Kirby Hulk.
I like the Todd McFarlane Hulk, the Gray Hulk from the 80s, where he did a few issues. And that iconic issue where he fights Wolverine, and you see.
Yeah, that's good Hulk. There's a lot of good Hulks, but I like that Kirby. And that's an offshoot of the Kirby Hulk, too. The flat head, the big brow. Mm-hmm. Burns Hulk, he draws in different ways. So I have this drawing of the Hulk that I have with me all the time. And I drew it, I think, sometime after I got back. It's probably one of the, and this is just a copy of kind of like you said, a Roy Lichtenstein type of thing. I don't know if you could see it.
Oh, let me make it big. I was looking
let me see if I can. I don't know why the light's like this here, but if I angle this
light. Oh, that is cool.
So I drew this, and then I lettered the top to see it says, and I feel like this is every day. It is time for the Hulk to again walk the earth, and that's from the first 6 issues. Yeah, that's good.
That is really cool.
That's cool.
I have this with me, and I think it's one of my first drawings after I got out of COVID, probably. when I was sick.
You know that looks like Jack Kirby and Eric Powell mixed together.
Yeah, well, it's really Jack Kirby. Like I didn't really deviate, but
well,
it's only in pencil. I'll leave it in pencil. But that's my favorite Hulk. There's something very visceral to me that the Hulk you're talking about, John.
Yeah, well, this
as
is
opposed to the other Hulks. I love the other Hulks too, but you know,
I do love the character of the Hulk. But yeah, this is
that's really good.
I love this. This is one of my favorite. I as a kid growing up, I'll tell you, man, when you're hanging out with a bunch of comic book nerds, when you found out that it was this month Hulk and the Thing were fighting again, like you couldn't wait for like a match like this, you know. And of course, look at me, I'm rooting for the Thing, you know. I always rooted for the Thing, but that was it. Every time there was a Hulk Thing fight, and then later on, when I got to the John Byrne X-Men, I was like, I couldn't wait for a Hulk Colossus fight. Even though I knew Hulk would destroy Colossus, I wanted to see that. Like this, you know, when it comes to the superhero battle, Doctor Strange versus Loki is cool, but ultimately it's just people waving their hands. There's just something totally, I already used this word, but like primal about just two powerhouses punching the crap out of each other. You know, what about you, Tony? What you already said, the Todd McFarlane's your favorite?
I always like that flat-headed, big-browed Frankenstein look of the character. But honestly, if you have a gun to my head, what's my favorite look? Lou Ferrigno. And that's how I discovered the character. The reruns of those when I was a kid. I love the way the makeup, and I always liked the way Lou Ferrigno looked as the monster.
I mean, when it comes to this kind of stuff, this basically, let's admit it, this childish stuff that we all like. Mm-hmm. It's the stuff that we've discovered at that sweet spot age of 7 to 12. You know what I mean? Like that's why I still love and only love the original 3 Star Wars movies. That that came out when I was in 3rd grade. I lived those 3 movies. The Lou Ferrigno Hulk, I have like great memories of like my entire family, all 7 of us. Oh yeah, I love that book.
So this is original. See how dog-eared and beat up this is? I had this since 1978. That's why I know so much about the Hulk.
I had that too. Yeah,
like a billion times.
Like that Lou Ferrigno show. I remember watching the very first episode with my entire family. We sat in the basement, in this wood paneled basement with my father built this hole in the wall. Like we had a boiler room, so he made a wall, and then he cut a hole out and he made a frame, and we put the TV. So it kind of looked like a flat screen back when it was a gigantic, and of course I was the remote control. John, change the channel. Get up to. I have such strong memories of literally was sitting around watching the Hulk. And now when I watch it now as an adult, I'm like, how did children sit through this? It was because, like you said, it was a low budget show. And then
I watched it
transform
for like 5 minutes. Most of it was Bill Bixby's problems.
Yeah, the thing I remember most about that, because I watched it a few years ago. Somebody gave me the DVD of some DVDs of some episodes. I'm just taken aback by how melancholic it is. It's really sad, and that music at the end, that beautiful piano music, and he's always hitchhiking. He never finds a home. He's always constantly having to. It's sad,
He was before Rambo. He just wanted to go wash dishes in some town, and either the hillbillies bother him, or the cops bother him, or some bother him. Just leave poor Bill Bixby alone.
Exactly.
Marvel did the Hulk magazine, the Rampaging Hulk, from that. Based on that, they didn't really change the comic though. Although every comic had Marvel's TV sensation.
Yeah, and then the rumor has it that if there was another season of that show, they were going to add a female Hulk. And that's why Stan Lee rushed out She-Hulk, because Stan Lee's like, we got to own this character. Now, I don't know if Marvel rushing out the character canceled the ideas, or if the idea got nixed. But once words, I can't blame Stan Lee for doing that. You can't have a TV show owning She-Hulk when you own Hulk.
Did you guys see the last episode? He died in a TV movie. They killed him, remember?
No.
Yeah, that's true.
That was really sad. Yeah, he finally died. It's kind of interesting because it actually had a beginning, a middle, and an end. With the character's death. But I remember the he was like 3 or 4 TV films after the show got canceled, and 2 of those, one of them introduced Thor, and the other one was Daredevil.
Daredevil, yeah, those are lame-o Daredevils and lame-o Thors, but it still was Thor and Daredevil, you know.
Right. Yeah. That would be funny to do, like an AI, like 70s Marvel team, the 70s Marvel's Avengers, you know? Yeah. Not that I'm advocating AI, but I mean.
And the other thing is about, like, going back to those Tales to Astonish issues and even some of those early Hulk issues. If you remember those early stop motion Marvel TV cartoon shows that they used to play in New York after school, those were panels taken from those comics, and they would move them like limited movement, had all these different voice actors. And you're watching it like, I remember. And then you have this book, and then you're watching it like, hey, remember that panel? They play them at Comic Cons, laughing at them how goofy they are, and now everybody's like, oh, this is so fun.
Oh, I remember the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
That was the first time I ever saw Galactus, and I was like fascinated.
That was the Hanna-Barbera run, yeah.
You know, because I couldn't go out and just get the Galactus issues. They were, even back then, they were out of my price range for an 8-year-old. But man, anytime. And I remember my brother goes, "Oh yeah, that's Galactus. He eats planets." And I just thought like you
get the feel he eats it like an apple, right?
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh man, yeah." And I remember before I even read the comics, I remember me and my friends, we would draw. You know, back in school, you done with your work, we were allowed to draw anything to be quiet, right? And I just remember drawing the solar system, and I would always draw like a planet with a bite taken out of it with the sign Galactus was here. Mm-hmm. You know. Oh! What do you guys? I heard about this, but I don't know the exact answer. That the change from green to gray was because of printing errors. Is that?
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah, and they if you remember, John Byrne played up on that idea when She-Hulk was in the Fantastic Four. They had a paparazzi fly by in a helicopter, take pictures of her while she was sunbathing, and then when she was in the, John Byrne always had a little sexy weirdo stuff. And then they printed them in a magazine, but they color corrected it so she looked Caucasian, and she had big sunglasses, so nobody thought it was really She-Hulk. And of course, of course, Johnny Storm's looking at it like, the Invisible Girl forgot overlooked. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on the comments. Hulk seemed to have the most fun in that gladiatorial. Yeah, that was a fun story.
Yeah, Planet Hulk was fun. Yeah,
I know I'm a weirdo, but like Planet Hulk to me, I love Planet Hulk. But World War Hulk should have been the last. How do you come back from that? Like, he was destroying Manhattan. Hulk in that story. Like, I work in buildings. I've talked about this before. At no point is any skyscraper in Manhattan empty. And Planet, like, they always say, like, oh, good thing it was Sunday. Well, then the janitors are all getting killed. There's always a building maintenance guy. Like, how many, like, in or whatever, Hulk killed more New Yorkers than Bin Laden. You can't come back from that. But
in World War Hulk, yeah.
In order for Hulk Hogan to use Hulk's name, he had to sign an agreement with Marvel to receive $100 for every match he wrestled. $100? That's it? That's not bad. I knew he reached an agreement with Marvel, but I didn't know that. That seems kind of low. He apparently couldn't bill himself as the Incredible or wear green or purple. That would be interesting if Hulk Hogan actually dyed his skin green. I was working at the bets in the scoreboard. When you go to the stadium and you see the names come up in lights when they come up to bat. I was one of the guys that pushed those buttons, and I was there when Noah Syndergaard first played. Matter of fact, I was walking to Citi Field. I got off the train, and Noah Syndergaard was like, "Hey, how do I get in the building?" I was like, "Oh, follow me." I didn't know he was a ball player. Like, literally, it was his first game. He's a giant. He's got like Norse giant blood in him. You don't see it because he's compared to all the other athletes, but he is like
they used to call him Thor.
Yeah, he's alert. But anyway, he was up to bat for the first time and he hit a home run. And then that's when they started calling him Thor. And Marvel put a cease and desist, and then Marvel came to some sort of agreement. And all I can think of is if Noah Syndergaard's hitting a home run and he looks like, why would Marvel say no? Like, is it just greedy? They just wanted a taste? Like, it doesn't harm. To me, like Hulk Hogan calling himself, it doesn't hurt. Like, if Hulk Hogan wanted to call himself Long Box Johnny, that would only help me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Is it just greed? Marvel just wanted to taste a little piece of the action to sound like the.
Real quick question: what do you guys think of the Eric Bana Hulk and the Edward Norton Hulk? I like the Edward Norton Hulk between the two.
Edward Norton Hulk, the Eric Bana Hulk. Nothing against Eric Bana. I never blame the actors, but Ang Lee was not the director. And as I was watching that movie, my buddy Mike and I were in the movie theater, and we both said at the same time, "Who's the audience for this?" It was tonally all over the place. There was a couple of good. I will say that
there was some good scenes, but it was a crazy.
Yeah,
movie.
Ang Lee had some great Hulk scenes, but it was a bad movie. And then that adding with the kind of the absorbing man, but not really. It was just weird.
He spent all that time as a scientist at the beginning, and the only person who liked it was my son, who ended up being an engineer. He liked all that stuff because I took the kids to it,
Yeah, I didn't like it. I like the first Ed Norton Hulk, and I even before Mark Ruffalo opened his mouth, I didn't like him as the Hulk just because he's too big.
Because it's Bruce Banner, he isn't a thin guy.
Bruce Banner is supposed to be wimpy, like Edward Norton. He got big during American History X. He got big and cut, but when he was playing the Hulk, he was kind of slimmed down. Like to be the Hulk, you got to be.
I think the CGI didn't catch up to do a really decent looking Hulk until Avengers. So as the Hulk looked best in the Avengers. Especially when they fought to save New York City in the first movie. And that's when they used the Hulk the best. They had the Hulk and Abomination was cool, but I don't think the CGI really caught up to do a really good Hulk. Now the CGI is worse. So somehow it got good and then went worse because they're cheap or something. But I thought in those early Avengers, that was I didn't really equate the Hulk's face with the actor, Bruce, until when he became Wimpy Hulk at Endgame.
Yeah, they talk about a character assassination.
They killed him. Hopefully,
Stippling Vaughn is in the audience. I know, and he has every legitimate right to. But Scott Summers got character assassinated, and MCU Hulk, they just neutered him.
It looks like in the trailer for the Spider-Man, the big scary Hulk comes back.
Oh, Tony, what were you gonna say?
No, I was saying I thought that I loved the character, even though there was only very limited things you can do with him. But the thing that always bothered me about that character was his rogues gallery was very small. I mean, you have the general and the army, I guess, but then you just have the Abomination, the leader, and that's it, really. I mean,
don't you dare leave out the Bi Beast.
The Bi Beast is awesome, and the UFOs.
The UFOs, Zax.
Yeah, but that's stuff you and I know. It's not like they're not big enough for the
thing about the Hulk comic is that every super strong character and villain, super duper strong character, would fight the Hulk. They didn't really have to come up with stuff. Oh, the Abomination and the Juggernaut, and then they came. Wendigo.
Wendigo was originally a Hulk villain.
Oh, was a Hulk villain. The guys the issue after Hammer and Anvil.
Yeah,
semi-racist couple. I loved Hammer and Anvil.
Hammer and Anvil, black guy and a white guy who hated each other, but they were.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they created stuff. There was always the super strong weirdo guys, and he would fight them, and that's what the Hulk was for a long time.
Rhino, Juggernaut, Yeah, but the problem with the Hulk is for half the Hulk comics, he didn't have good stories. Well, you're getting bombed over there, Tony. My mom
I'm sorry about that.
The Marvel comics, a lot of them didn't have, especially through the 70s, and didn't really have tops. The Cap had some really highlights.
Tony's getting air alerts over there. Maybe the Hulk is attacking. He lives in New Mexico.
No, we're having a storm. If you hear it, it's a bad thunderstorm. So sorry about that.
One of the things I was amazed when I lived in Albuquerque, because it was 320 beautiful sunny days a year, and my friends used to say, "Just wait," because I just moved there. I moved there in September, right before the school started. They're like, "Oh, you just missed it." And then July and August, it's monsoons. I'm like, I live in a place where there's monsoons, and I used to see those signs that said, stay away from arroyos, ditches are deadly. And I didn't quite get it, but it would be raining so far away that you didn't know it. And then all of a sudden, these arroyos, which were natural river beds, the water would just come gushing down. And like every year, you heard these horrible stories about little kids just playing, and they're just.
Sorry about that.
So
actually, it's entertaining. A little spice to the stream.
Yeah, it's reminded me when I lived in Albuquerque. I do miss Albuquerque. I do miss it. My mom loved the Hulk from the TV show, and I liked Thor, who made an appearance in the show. That the TV Thor was a real jerk, which my mom did not like. I remember he basically threw like a construction lump hammer, right? Yeah. Nice work on the sketch. Everybody's liking your art.
You were saying about like the stories of, like, before Iron Man movie, or before Bob Layton and Dave McElhinney and John Romita Jr., Iron Man's like a C-list character. Right. He was a big deal for the Avengers, but did he have really good? Some of the comics are good. I mean, the key to Marvel was it was just consistent. There was highlights of Cap that people think were good, and there were a lot of lowlights in between. Like after Kirby left, they didn't know what to do with him. And then Roger Stern and John Byrne had that great run. Then there was a mess afterward.
Oh, look, the Avengers. The Avengers had like 15 good issues, and then I'd say there was like 80 mediocre to bad issues.
Well, the thing is about like Avengers Defenders War, written by Englehart. Bob Brown was the issue. They couldn't get an artist on the Avengers because nobody wanted to draw all those characters because they weren't making any extra money drawing them. Yeah. So they get guys like Bob Brown, who did a good job on Daredevil, but they were like putting out comics. Like the Gene Colan Daredevils are not thought to be really great comics.
Matt, come on in, Matt.
It's kind of weird that way.
The link is starred, and I sent you a link to the show the other day, Matt.
But I have a lot of nostalgia for all those comics. Doctor Strange was a highlight. But Captain Marvel, Warlock, and they were on the edges.
Zach 10, I like that. I think magic should hinge on cleverness, while physical fights can use strategy, power, and the will to push through pain and draw upon untapped strength. I know I talked about this with Marcus, but I forget if we talked in private or if we talked in public. But like writing a script of a fist fight of superheroes, it's stressful because like what do? This guy punches A, B, and then B punches A, and then the writer just decides the fight's over. So I always try to make the fights a little clever. I'm not saying I succeed. I'm saying I try. And then magic makes it really weird because I have a character called the Metaphysician, and his first story I think it went pretty well, but I'm working on a second story, and the imposed weakness of the Metaphysician is he's a doctor and he shall do no harm. So he's not going to just fire a lightning bolt at Marcus's face and take out the bad guy. Every villain that he fights is his patient. That's the way he looks at it. So I'm racking my brains to come up with a clever way. I think magic, because the temptation with magic is you just wave your fingers and solve the problem.
But that's why Doctor Strange, other than in the Defenders, didn't fight those guys like that. They fight all these cosmic, bigger picture things, like even from the beginning of Doctor Strange.
Right. I remember Scar was one of his kids.
I remember that.
Did they kill him off? Did they kill off Scar?
I don't know. I could look it up, I guess.
Truth be told, Eric Bana Hulk was my first live-action Hulk.
Jennifer Connelly was
a kid crush. You don't have an adult crush on Jennifer Connelly? What's wrong with you? Are you straight? Are you straight, Rex?
Oh my God!
There's a few people on this planet that are carved by the gods: Linda Carter, Jane Seymour, and Jennifer Connelly. And
Linda Carter just turned 75.
There's something about these three women that have divine beauty. Like even wives and girlfriends, they can't fight with you when you say you like these three women. So it's okay to have a kid crush. What does that mean? That means you're normal. That means you're normal and you saw her on TV. I like the Ed Norton Hulk, even though I don't care too much for the Hulk design. I thought Ed Norton was I think he's a better actor. I don't know what his politics are. I know that he's difficult to work with, and that's why they got rid of him. But I know he almost sank the Frida movie. He was dating Salma Hayek at the time, and he was like taken over directing, and they told Salma Hayek, "You get rid of this guy, or we're taking the movie." And they actually broke up over that. Dude, you lost out on Salma Hayek, dude. Surprised you didn't turn into the Hulk in real life. That would cause rage. I think that one of the Russos claimed they nerfed the Hulk on purpose. Claimed he deserved it because he's toxic masculinity. I mean, what other character besides? Notice the two most masculine characters in the MCU. They ridiculed them, the Hulk and Thor. There's also the leaders, Zax, the Absorbing Man, the Gargoyle. Yep. They actually had plans to bring Iron Man more into the TV world, but it got canceled. That would have been interesting to see 70s. George.
Well, that's what they ended up doing, right?
Yeah, Kurt Busiek used to say that George Perez would ask more characters.
They ended up bringing him even before he was ready to draw a comic to do Avengers.
Yeah. Jennifer Connelly she's unworldly beautiful. I'm straight and I still like Jennifer Connelly. I know. I'm goofing on you. So, anything else you want to talk about the Hulk?
I think we could talk about the Hulk all day because we know so much about him.
Yeah, he's strong. He's the strongest. He gets stronger as he gets angrier, which is a great concept. He's invulnerable. He can jump miles. He can't actually fly. And I know that they give at one point he could see ghosts. Does anybody remember that?
Oh, I remember that, especially in the Defenders. He could always see Doctor Strange.
Yeah, he could see astral ghosts and stuff, which is an interesting power. And now, I haven't read since 2015, but now he's got I don't know, mythological powers or something. I don't know. All right, Tony, you're on. You want to talk about Solomon Grundy? I'll look up the images.
I will start with this. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on a Tuesday, married on a Wednesday, took ill on Thursday, worse on Friday, died on a Saturday, buried on a Sunday. This is the end of Solomon Grundy. That is the nursery rhyme that the character was named after. He was created in October 1944 by one of my favorite writers of all time, Alfred Bester and Paul Reinman, which Marcus mentioned earlier. This is possibly, next to the Joker, my favorite golden aged DC villain. He is so unique, so interesting, so fun for me. He's such a cool character. The story goes in 1851, a wealthy businessman called Cyrus Gold was killed by his female friend. His body was dumped in Slaughter Swamp right outside of Gotham City. And there it stayed until one night, Halloween, 1944, he woke. He arose from the swamp, a gigantic albino Hulk, completely naked. Stumbling around, he saw fire. And in that fire were a group of hobos. They were eating and just hanging out. And he comes and he sits down next to one of the hobos. The hobos are all freaked out. One of them asks him, "What's your name?" And Grundy responded, "Well, I don't have one." He says, "Well, I'll give you one. When were you born?" "I was born on a Monday." "Oh, like that rhyme. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday." He liked the name, so the name stuck. He then became the gang leader of this particular group of hobos, and they basically used him as their muscle. That's where he ran afoul of the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. Now, this character has legs because he appeared in the Golden Age 4 times. Outside of Batman villains and, of course, Lex Luthor, no Golden Age character had a lot of appearances. Usually they were one-offs. Like the Riddler only appeared twice, and then he went to sleep for 20 years until the 60s.
He only came back because of the TV show.
Yes, exactly. So this guy had legs, and he actually fought the Justice Society of America, the original run, as written by Gardner Fox. Everybody that worked on this character loved him. Now, Alfred Bester is a genius, man. He's known mainly for his literary work, including two big stories that he wrote: "The Star Is My Destination" and "The Demolished Man." Two books that I cannot recommend enough if anybody here likes to read vintage science fiction. He's also
Answering your question.
he also wrote extensively for Fawcett. He did a few things for Timely, but he was more of a DC guy. And John, if you go on YouTube, I recommend you do this. Type in Alfred Bester interview, and you see somebody interviewed him in '76 at a science fiction convention. It's about an hour long, and he talks a lot about his comic work. He talks about meeting Siegel and Schuster, working for Julia Schwartz. It's interesting. I'd recommend you do that. This character is great. But before I continue with Grundy, Bester is known for three things in comics. This guy, Vandal Savage, and he's the one that wrote the modern day Green Lantern's Oath. Because Bill Finger wrote the Oath, and it was completely different. Bester didn't like how it went, so Alfred Bester rewrote it as, "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light." He's the one that did that. He had a great run. The Golden Age Green Lantern had, next to Batman, had the greatest run of comics because of the people that worked on them. Finger, Bester, and Kanigher. Those guys, and John Broome towards the end. But those three guys, there's very consistent quality in the Alan Scott Green Lantern. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
Alan Scott was my favorite Green Lantern until, let's just say, they treated him badly.
The pre-crisis Green Lantern is the only Green Lantern that I will recognize. Now, this character they wrote him out of continuity because he was just too damn strong. He was too damn powerful. The encounters that he had with Alan Scott barely survived, barely. So Gardner Fox wanted to use him in an issue, have him be the big bad of an issue of JSA, but Gardner Fox had to write him out. So Gardner Fox did a great story. It's been reprinted, thankfully. And it basically, the JSA have to come together to stop him. This guy is an engine of destruction. He cannot be stopped. He's completely overpowered. So Johnny Thunder he makes some stupid remark about the man in the moon. And Alan Scott goes, "That's it." So Alan Scott and Dr. Fate join together, and they create a sphere around Grundy. The first sphere is the Green Lantern energy. Dr. Fate uses his magic to reinforce it, and both of them go up into space and drop him in the moon, and that's where Grundy stays until the Silver Age. But that's how powerful this character was. No prison could hold him. Death couldn't hold him. Nothing could hold him. He had to literally be off-world so that he wouldn't kill anybody.
It was the original Planet Hulk story, right?
Exactly. Sorry if I was a little long-winded.
No, that's fine.
My introduction to the character. I mean, I remember what's his name, the actor who played Lurch, did a bit in Challenge of the Super Friends. I actually saw that first run on TV. I stumbled across it. I was like, "Wow, what is this?" You know, and everybody in my family knew we weren't changing the channel. John just saw superheroes, and I can't I think of the actor's name, but you know, he played
Ted Cassidy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a striking design, as done by Mr. Reinman. I mean, essentially, it's a albino Hulk. Of course, this guy came out like 20-something years before the Hulk, but it's a striking design. This big, gigantic Frankenstein albino monster in ill-fitting clothes.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of it is a very striking design.
I thought he was just like this, like it evoked like an Undertaker, you know, like
right,
the white skin. So I always found him to be like almost half a horror character. But I like when superheroes have horror elements in it. So I always liked this character. My first introduction, besides the TV shows and comics, was Infinity Incorporated. He shows up, and for whatever reason, he gets tame around Jade. He gets attracted to Jade, the original Green Lantern's daughter. So that's the only time he's like pacified. He almost becomes like a docile puppy around her. But they were talking about he was so powerful they couldn't beat him, and they had some sort of machine that just made it so he was constantly off balance. Like, you know, like he was like literally floating in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get his feet on the ground. That was the only way they could defeat him. And he was punching glaciers and knocking glaciers back.
Mm-hmm.
That's how powerful he was. You know, so yeah, I always liked this character.
I was introduced to him in the Super Friends reruns. Remember, he was part of the Legion of Doom. Yeah, so I thought he looked really cool.
Helmet would rise out of the swamp.
It was in who was the name of John? I'm blanking on it. The guy that took over Swamp Thing after Moore, Veitch, right?
Rick Veitch.
Yeah. He's the one that retconned it so that he was a failed plant elemental.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
The missing element was fire.
Yeah.
He didn't burn. You needed to burn in the swamp. Which, remember at the time I was like, okay, I'll buy that, because to me it doesn't change the character. You know, it you know, like he is a supernatural thing that rose from the swamp. Like, and I don't know how you feel about it. It's like you make his face, you don't like it, but I kind of like that there was a purpose to him, but it got messed up, and now we had this like powerful abomination roaming the earth. You know.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those characters that for me, the more I know about a character, the less interesting it becomes. Like with Wolverine,
right.
I don't know about his real name or all that BS. I want Weapon X from Barry Windsor Smith. That's it. I don't want anything more. So when you start getting into the weeds with this character, what he is, it kind of like, I guess it takes the shine off the apple, as it were. But it's neat.
Did you ever read the Starman? He was a
and James Robinson's the one that came up with that stupid gimmick of whenever he dies, he's reborn with a new personality. That would explain why he's docile in some stories and evil in some sort. For me, he's just evil. That's all he is. He's an engine of destruction. If you start making him sympathetic.
Well, I didn't like it either, but I was just like, this was an exceptional period or whatever. He came back and he was more lanky and he had long hair and he was kind of benevolent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were like fighting to keep that, because they're like, if he dies, he's going to come back and destroy everything. You know?
Now, this was an interesting thing, because this character originally started off as a Green Lantern foe, probably his arch enemy. I mean, the Golden Age Green Lantern had a really interesting and really wild rogues gallery. I mean, there were some really good ones there. But
also, he's made out of plants and stuff like that, so he was immune to Green Lantern's power.
Exactly, he has plants, so it negated exactly his the ring's ability to function. That's what made him so difficult to fight. That's what made him dangerous. That's why Alan Scott was afraid of this guy. But as I was saying, he was repurposed as a Batman villain. Just like Vandal Savage, who started off as a foe of the Lantern, became a Flash villain, I believe, or maybe a Justice League villain. I mean, he just sort of transitioned from Alan Scott. But he's a very interesting character. He's been in cartoons, he's been in live action. People in the chat will know he played a big part in Batman Arkham City, the video game. They made him huge. I remember he was enormous in that, and he's a great character, all around great character.
Yep, that I never played that video game, but I imagine that would be scary to be like lurking around, and all of a sudden you turn the corner and this beast is in your face. In that interview that Alfred Bester was that I mentioned,
they were talking to him about, he was talking about a lot about his comics work. And he said, a guy came up to me and he asked me about Solomon Grundy. And I said, who the hell is that? And he had to be reminded of what he did. And then he's like, I didn't even know people still read these damn things, you know? And he was like, thank God for Solomon Grundy. And I think you get a kick out of the fact that outside of those two big novels, the three things that the other things that he's known for is his comics work, you know, especially creating two of the greatest golden age villains of DC Comics.
It is interesting how, because they kind of, like, Slaughter Swamp wasn't in Gotham City originally. They placed it. It was?
Yeah, the original this is the things people forget. The original Gotham City in the 40s was Alan Scott. Batman had his own city. They never really. Sometimes it was Manhattan. Blah blah blah. It was Alan Scott was the first guy to be in Gotham City. Yes,
That's right. Yeah.
mm-hmm. And Gotham City wasn't even created by DC. Gotham City was originally created by Fawcett Comics for. God, I think it was Mr. Scarlet and Pinky back in Nickel Comics or something like that. But it was a Fawcett. That's the first time you ever see the word Gotham City in a comic book.
Because I have those Batman Chronicles, and they do mention Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
But New York was also called Gotham. So I didn't know that. So Gotham City was originally Green Lantern.
It was. And that's the thing. And I you know, DC only released 2 of the volumes of the Alan Scott archives. I have them both. That's it. You know, and some people have been nice and photographed a few of their pages, so you can read some of these stories on the internet, but a lot of them are of poor quality. I wish to God DC would release more of their Golden Age stuff, because you would really
They used to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
100-page super spectaculars.
I don't understand why DC doesn't do it either. Like, people want to read those old comics, you know.
Casual wartime racism. That's why. You know, that's the reason why they won't do it.
So then make it as a study, not what to do. I don't know. It's just so.
It's stupid.
I wonder if DC even has like records of all this stuff. There's got to be.
Yes, they do.
You know, weren't you saying that like a lot of that Bill Everett Submariner stuff is lost?
Yes, it is. It's a shame, you know. People like me, Golden Age fans. It's like being a Red Sox fan back in the day. You know, we're never going to get what we want. You know, we want this stuff to be out there in public so we could read it. But the people that own it, you know, they hoard it, like Smog the Dragon. You know, on his with his coins. You know, they see these as investments. They don't see them as cultural significant things. You know, they see an All-American Comic 61, and immediately we put it in a slab and we make money off. It's like, why don't you, like, before you slab it, why don't you take your phone and take a picture of the front cover, open it up, take a picture of the inside, you know, turn the pages, you know, before you slab it.
That's the biggest lie in the world. These people who buy slab, they don't read them.
They don't.
I have a reader copy. No, you don't. That's a $10,000 copy. You don't have a reader. It's been reprinted. Knock it off. You're a speculator, and you're ruining my hobby. You're making my hobby too expensive for guys like me. You know, but
it's a shame that, you know, Julius Schwartz kind of, I laud him for what he did with the Silver Age, but I really wish he would have given Alan Scott and Jay Garrick a chance. I mean, as much as I like Hal Jordan and Barry Allen, those characters could have had legs. You know, I mean, hell, you know, I mean, Green Arrow and Aquaman were pretty lame. I mean, as much of a Golden Age fan as I am, you know, those Aquaman issues that I've seen, they're a pretty hard read. You know, they're pretty bad. They're pretty badly written, and those Green Arrow issues, are just as bad. The only time that only old stuff Green Arrow wise that I like was that 12-issue run that Kirby did.
Yeah, I have that trade.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the character's kind of lame. It was just because Mort Weisinger created him. Mort Weisinger kept them safe and kept them away from, the purge that happened at DC Comics
Well,
after.
he never had his own comic either, so he just stuck him in the back of all this.
Yeah, in the back of Adventure Comics, Airboy. Yeah, I mean, Superboy. Forgive me, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I love those old issues. I wish they were easily available. Heavens knows, maybe one day it'll happen. I remember Paul Levitz wanted to do this big thing. I was so excited. This oversized volume called DC Before Superman, and it was going to do all the stuff that happened under Major Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson, and he couldn't do it because of the themes, And at that time, Warner Brothers was getting acquired by Discovery, I think, and they didn't want to queer the pitch, so they just quietly canceled it. I would have loved that book. I would have loved that crap.
Reprint all these books.
It's really sad that a publishing company is into censorship. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, they wanted to redo those old Captain Marvels, and
they won't do that. Yeah,
They won't.
What's the name of his? He had a short-term black character. What was Captain Marvel's?
Oh God, I know who you're talking about. It was this.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Well, they used to reprint them all the time, and nobody cared.
Right.
Remember, they had the Treasury issue. Tony, you probably know this.
Yeah.
And it had the Saturday Morning Captain Marvel in it.
But the DC, I remember, Marcus.
And they reprinted all those comics already in that comic. I had it. I read them like crazy.
That's how I used to read them too. But that DC, as it's gotten older, it's progressed to be more progressive.
Well,
so
it wasn't so sensitive. It was sensitive, but you could still understand it back then. It wasn't the 70s is when it really started. All this really started, but it still wasn't that like it is now. It wasn't the 70s, the 80s. It kind of it rolled back. They did the 100-page super spectaculars. They would have that one short front, and it was all reprints from the 60s, the 50s, 40s. That's how everybody knows what Dick Sprang is.
That's how I read some.
Jerry Robinson and Erwin Hasten, who was one of my teachers that did superhero comics.
He was I met him. Really cool guy. Love that.
I had him in school. I had him as a school. I had him in school. What a wild guy. John, he was 5'0", and he was a lover, boy. He could get the women.
Oh, yeah. When I met him.
All the hot models, you wouldn't even know. He was out. Go ask, even at the Cuban school, they all know the Erwin Hasten stories.
Yeah, when I met him at the convention, he had a girl sitting next to him, a really hot.
Oh, my God. And he was working on, when I was in school, he was working on a beautiful-looking graphic novel. Like, after all those years at Donda, he could still draw. Of his great love of his life that's like 6 foot blonde. He's this big. He's a midget. Boy, could he? Erwin was guy.
Ask Matt Bauer to tell stories about him. He's got some funny stories.
Of course. He had him too. Yeah, Matt Bauer had him too.
I went up
about 10 years after I did.
I went up to him. I wanted to get my copy of DC Comics All Stars. It was that archive edition that he had a bunch of his Wildcat stories in there. I wanted him to sign that, and he was totally cool. And I said, "Sir, my mom is a big fan of yours. She loved Dondi. She loved Dondi." I said, "Can you do a little sketch for me on like a backing board?" And I was like, and he's like, "Oh yeah." And he started doing it, busted it up, and I had like I was gonna reach into my pocket to give him some because And he's like, "Oh no, put that away. What's your mom's name?" And he wrote it there. Oh, she has it in her house, framed on the wall.
He was an imp or a leprechaun. That's how he was.
And
Toth loved him. Alex Toth loved Hands.
Yeah.
And he was just a wild guy. And we didn't have to he was just such a happy guy. Like, we'd bring homework from other classes and pass it off because it was Erwin. He didn't care. And it's just, he was just some character. What a character.
I would always go out of my way to meet the Golden Age guys before anybody else. Like that was my thing since I was a little kid. So I was lucky enough to meet Jerry Robinson, Martin Odell, Erwin Hasten,
I met Martin Odell too.
I met Shelley Moldoff. Oh,
I
that
never
guy
met
was so
Shelley.
cool. Dick Sprang. I got the I got to meet Stan Lee, and when I was very little, I met Jack Kirby. Oh,
I
and
met Stanley. I never met Jack Kirby. My brother saw Jack Kirby. I didn't go to that con. Stanley, I have.
And I met Joe Simon, and that guy was a totally super cool dude too. Oh,
So-
that guy was awesome.
There was
I met Carmine Infantino. Like I
Meet him. Lucky you.
we went to the comic convention and I was just looking at there was lines for all of these new hot people, and Carmine Infantino was just sitting by himself. And my wife just said, "Look at that old man over there. It looks so sad." And I saw him. And I started choking up because he looked like my grandfather. You know.
And that's the way most of them were, with the exception of Jerry Robinson. All these old guys, they didn't have a lot of people in their lines, you know, and that broke my heart, because I'm like, dude, you're in a permit me to cuss. You're in a fucking Comic Con surrounded by people that matter, that built the damn thing, and you're ignoring them for Jim Lee. You know, for this, that, and the other. Fuck those guys. The top of the living history right there.
Carmine Infantino. My biggest regret was I didn't have anything for him to autograph. You know.
I wish I would have met that. Oh, I love Carmine Infantino.
In the year 2000 in Westchester County Center, White Plains, New York, there was a White Plains old time con. And I had a table with my buddy Eric, you know, my writer Eric, and I sat next to Andy Fish. And Brian Bendis is there pushing Powers, and his artist who did Powers, I forget his name. So you get the timing. Before Bendis was Bendis. And all they had was every old guy they could possibly collect. I met Schwartz, Kubert, Ayers, Sinnott, Buscema, one of John Buscema's last cons. Now, we knew Sinnott already. He had drawn, inked a comic cover for us, right? But we had met him before, and we met Ayers. He was at all the local shows because he lived in White Plains. So we met him. I talked to Dan DiCarlo about suing Archie. I talked, you know, like, but the key was nobody was at the show. So we got up and walked around and met all these guys. They took a bath on the show. They paid all these guys to come there. And I don't remember having to pay for a table. Nobody went to the show.
They paid for all of these guys to show up, and there was no custom. So all these old timers just like probably drank and smoked cigarettes and had like from their wives.
That is a reason why the comic book industry is in the shape it's in. No respect for what came before it. God damn it! These people built the thing, and you ignore them. When I saw Martin Odell, I went there with my dad. I had the Green Lantern, Golden Age Green Lantern.
I met Martin Odell there, yeah.
1 and 2 just got released. I got these. I'm like, I'm going to get this dude to sign it. You know, and my dad's like, yeah, I'm going to come with you, because my dad was in the comic books as well. And we go over there, and we just see this old dude by himself. And he's like smiling away, you know, and I'm like, oh, man. You know, screw that guy. Talk to him. So I went over there. I had a nice dude talked my ear off. Half an hour just listening to this guy, absorbing the cool stories that was coming from this guy. Do you know that he created the Pillsbury Doughboy?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Pillsbury Doughboy.
He created the no shit. And he was like, yeah, talking back. Such a nice dude. And
everybody says he's. That show, like, if I knew you, John, I would have had you come up with the show. It was unbelievable. And I do commissions for guys at the show. It was one of our better shows. It was a fun show, but not because maybe he was making any money. It was a shame. I talked to Wrightson for a while, you know. They just had all these guys there, and nobody was there. And now one guy I couldn't say any words to, and I could talk to anybody. Kubert crushed my hand. Julia Schwartz. I could not say a word to John Buscema. I was like,
oh, really? You got starstruck?
Yeah, it was like, to me, and you'll get this reference. It was like talking to Joe DiMaggio. Like, this is the biggest star. Yeah, I was starstruck by Joe DiMaggio and Gil Kane. I mean, by John Buscema and Gil Kane in another. I couldn't really say anything to them.
And the thing
to anybody, I always try to find a hook, you know.
And the thing that breaks my heart is all these Golden Age guys are dead. They're gone. They're gone.
They're all gone. Larry Lieber's still here.
it's sad. It's just like a piece of history is just
They're all
gone.
gone. Well, Alter magazines and Tomorrows and their books
Mhm,
and Alter Ego, Roy Thomas Alter Ego. They've
mhm.
kept a lot of their they kept a lot of it alive. You know.
That's it. That's a shame. But I'm so thankful and happy that I was able to meet these people when I did. And I'm glad that I was able to at least, I know this is going to sound cheesy and schmaltzy, but I don't care. I'm glad I was able to tell them how much their work meant to me
Oh yeah, I was
and how much I
1981.
was a fan of what they
You have
did.
that Silver Surfer book that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee did in the 70s. So
Mm.
my mom worked at a bookstore, so I got all these. That's why I have all these books. And she would get the book, and I brought that up, and it's dog eared too because it's 70. I was a kid, and we went to a con, and they didn't sign on the front, and there it is in ballpoint pen, Stan Lee, 81.
Mm-hmm.
I like your taste in books, son. Like that's what he said. He had something to say to everybody. This is before all the nightmare. This is when he was still Stan Lee, right? We're online. I didn't have to pay any extra money for it or anything. It was a creation
I
con.
met Stan Lee right before he died, and let me tell you, that was an experience. I felt so bad for that man because he did not want to be there. He was
Yeah, I
so
know.
sad and he was so tired. He looked like he wanted to just be left alone on his living room watching TV shows. Just leave him alone. And I felt like shit for going over there. But it's Stan Lee, it's like while Stan Lee was alive, that was like going to Mecca if you were a Muslim. You had to meet Stan Lee at least once. And I went over there, it cost me $150 for a signature and a picture, that picture over there. And I remember as I was in line, because that line was huge, man. That line was enormous. And as I was going towards it, I saw that they were forcing him to sign a bunch of shit on one table, all sorts of stuff. Football helmets, hats, this, that, and the other, statues, all sorts of shit. And he's over there and he's just signing and signing away. And Ethan Van Sciver, the Frog Father himself, happens to walk by him, and he's over there, he sits down next to him, and he goes, "Smile, Stan. These are some of your fans." And he goes, I hear him goes, "Fans, nothing. Half this stuff's going on eBay anyway."
Yeah, I've heard that story. That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, I was there, man. That was in Albuquerque.
Didn't,
And it was, huh?
didn't somebody make a documentary about his last days?
Yeah, they just did it. Yeah.
Basically, he was being like pressured into doing all this stuff.
No, it was elder abuse. It was literally elder abuse. I
It was
remember in 2011, 10 or 11, we went to Heroes Con, and he spoke. I was with a bunch of guys from the internet, and we saw. I didn't pay him, and that was like one of the last time he spoke coherently and had a great speech. He speak when he's on a roll. It was really fun. And after that, you just heard these horror stories.
No, I didn't see him. I saw he looked tired. He looked sleepy.
Yeah,
And when you approach him, it was so robotic. The interaction. Because I met all these old Golden Age guys, and he was a big Golden Age guy. And I wanted to shake his hand and do the fan thing. When you approach Stan Lee, do not look at Stan Lee's gaze. Do not meet his gaze. Do not talk to Stan Lee unless he talks to you first. Do not touch Stan Lee. So if you see that me and him, I'm like this. Like I'm next to him, and I want to just shake, but I can't touch him. So I'm like this. I'm doing the thumbs up, and he sort of smiles up at me, and he does a thumbs up too. So
that's cool. Well, John, you got to spend time at John Romita's house.
Yeah.
I can't get tired when you tell that story. That's so awesome. Like you spent time in his house. Like I spent time in Rich Buckler's office, like in his art studio, but John Romita, that would have been great.
Yeah, it turns out my coworker at the time, he was John Romita Sr.'s next door neighbor. He's got to live somewhere, and he has a neighbor, and so we were talking about comics. He's like, "You're into comics? Do you know John Romita's?" John Romita, I was like, "Junior or senior?" He's like, "Senior. He's gray haired." Yeah, I mean, he knew JR. He knew Junior also. I was like, "Yeah, that guy's a legend." And he's like, "Oh, he's my next door neighbor." I was like, and I wanted to I meet him, but I didn't want to be too pushy or anything like that. So we talked about it a few times. Then finally, he's like, "You want to meet him?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." But again, I didn't want to be too pushy. So months went by, and then we were both on furlough at the same time. He's like, "You want to meet him or not?" I was like, "I want to meet him right now, but I don't want to be pushy." He's like, "Let's go." So I went the next day, drove to his house. And we sat in John Romita's house, and it was Spider-Man's house. It was Aunt
Like
May's
the one in Forest Hills, yeah.
Yeah, it was. He bought that house with the Spider-Man money. He's been living there since the '60s. Beautiful neighborhood, and I'm like, I recognize this room. You know what I mean? There's a room that he always drew, and that's because that's where he drew his comics from, and he had stuff all over the house. And I wonder about this, but he had somebody sent him a big piece of paper, and it had Charlie Brown drawn by Charles Schultz. It had the Spirit drawn by Will Eisner. It had Captain Marvel drawn by C.C. Beck. Is that the artist? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had all of these, Bugs Bunny drawn by whoever the famous Bugs Bunny artist was.
Chuck Jones. Yeah.
And he asked for John Romita. John Romita said, "I've had this in my house for 2 years." And I wonder if he ever finished it, sent it back to the guy. Like,
it's late.
You know what I mean? Did he die with that on his desk? And his fingers were they were like hockey sticks. They were all
he had big hands.
Well, no, I mean they were from the top knuckle, from pushing down. They were all bent.
Yeah.
They were all bent. And he said it just hurts to draw. And then I always tell the story. He goes, "You see that?" And there was a bottle of black ink, and it was like this much ink left. He says, "This company's out of business." He goes, "It went out of business like 20 years ago, and I bought up all the ink that I could find." He goes, "When that ink is gone, that's the last bottle that existed. I never draw again." And I was like, that's like a should be in a museum. I was like, that John Romita Sr. will never draw again when this much ink. That's all we'll ever have. I wonder if that ink was still on the shelf when he died. And we're talking about music, and he's like, "Yeah, he's giving me like Sinatra records. He gave me." I was like, "I can't take anything. I can't."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I felt like I'd be taking advantage of it. And we just sat and talked for hours. And it's funny because the first thing he said, he goes, "You want to know about Ditko, right?" I was like, so we talked about Ditko. Like, he said stuff that I've still never repeated because he had nothing good to say about modern Marvel. Basically, he was like, "They're turning everything faggy and gay and transgender." And Stan would be rolling in his graves. Jack Kirby would be horrified. And then you hear all
he was based.
Yeah, I mean, not based. He was probably a liberal.
Well, he's probably a New York Democrat, but you're an FDR Democrat. A New York Democrat, you're not into all that other crap that came.
Stan Lee, guys, go on YouTube and look at the Stan Lee talk show. He did a pilot. It's in black and white, and you can tell it's from a VCR because there's tracking in it. But it's from like 1967. And Stan Lee tried to break out of comics and do a talk show. And he invited conservatives, he invited liberals, and then he was and it was kind of like Bill Maher before Bill Maher. And you see a lot of Stan Lee. There was no comic book talk. It was all politics. And Stan Lee would be an alt-right Nazi right now, according to all the progressives.
Right. Well, that's
John Romita. This is like one of the stories that I never told because John Romita's dead now. He can't be canceled. But I forget who it was. But they showed a cover to a comic. It's Stan Lee's living out in Hollywood at the time, and he just happened to be in New York. And he looked at this cover, and he wrote on it, "This is gay. This looks gay. Marvel characters do not look gay. This is effeminate, and it's too homosexual. We can't use it." And it still went to print, like Killraven or something like that. You know what I mean? And they're like, "It's too late. It's going out." And Stan Lee's like, "You can't do this." He goes, "Marvel characters have to be masculine, strong, and straight." Right? John Romita Jr., John Romita Sr. told me that story. And he told me that he this is the guy that took over for Steve Ditko. And I a lot of people take Steve Ditko's side. A lot of people, but he said Stan Lee honestly confused and didn't know why Steve Ditko. He goes, because Stan Lee is walking in fame. He knows he didn't create. He didn't create fame, but he's Stan Lee, the comic book guy. So he's just like, "Yeah, I created that. Yeah." And I think Jack Kirby got fed up with it. I think, but he said, according to John Romita Sr., he tried to make amends with Steve Ditko, and Steve Ditko absolutely refused. Like Steve Ditko, like You either say I created Spider-Man or I didn't. Because at one point he wrote him a big letter and said, I've always considered you the co-creator of Spider-Man. And Stan Lee thought that would bend the bridges. And Steve Ditko wrote back, consider. Consider means you thought about me among other people. Who else did you? It wasn't definitive enough. Like, Stan Lee, Mr. A is A. Either I am the co-creator or I'm not the co-creator. That consider. You know what I mean? So Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. said Stan gave up at that point. He said there's no pleasing him. Like he won. So I'm a little bit more forgiving with Stan Lee than most people.
I am too, but I'm with you. I think my feeling is that Martin Goodman screwed with these guys' paychecks more than Stan Lee ever did, and the press never knew. Because if you really start looking into it, they never got a piece. These guys, Ditko and Kirby, were promised. Kirby in particular was promised raises and never got them. Like I know that like Kirby's wife had a problem, and because Stan was like Stan, and Kirby was just sitting in the corner. That famous article in the Herald Statesman, and they got all pissed at him. But part of it was because Martin Goodman never came through on his promises to these artists. And Martin Goodman did not like the artists. He liked the writers. He think the artists were just the guys building the house, So, people don't really look at Goodman. And I think there's more up of the line problems than anybody knows. And the comic people all blame Stan Lee.
Yeah, he was the face. He was the face.
It happened to Jim Shooter, too, later. They blame all the corporate things, got blamed for Jim Shooter. When Jim Shooter was hired to get them more money, he got people raises. He brought old guys back.
I will always defend
and Coletta.
I've heard stories of Jim Shooter getting in people's faces and yelling and degrading. But you know what? Wouldn't you rather be, if you're an artist, wouldn't you rather be rich with a tyrant than broke with an ideologue?
Well, the issue with Marvel was like in the 70s, there's wonderful like Jim Starlin and Steve Englehart, whatever you think of their politics, right? Englehart, Don McGregor, who I met, and he's a lovely guy, like the same way you meet guys. I met Don McGregor, he's a lonely, he's sitting there with his wife, and they're all writing tomes, Steve Gerber, but all those guys were iconoclasts and hippies. Like the hippies took over, but they were the hippies. And it was wonderfully creative. And sometimes it worked. Lots of times it didn't. And it was never on time. And Marvel never made any money. And they were in debt and ended up selling off Spider-Man to Sony. Like they still don't make money on Spider-Man movies for the most part. And Jim Shooter came in and he was the only one who had a business mind and a comic mind. And he put the clamps down. And early on, nobody had complaints because they started making money.
Tony, I know you're waiting to see something. Tony, jumping at the bit to say something.
No, I was saying that I think I see where Ditko's coming from. He's like the main character, John Galt, I believe, from Atlas Shrugged. I built the bridge. That's my. He had that mentality of an idea is meaningless unless you have the ability to make it happen. And it basically what you have was an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force. You had Stan Lee saying, I came up with the name. I came up with the idea. I assigned it to you. And you have Steve Ditko basically saying, yeah, but I did everything. I did everything. You can't say that I didn't do everything. And Stan Lee's like, well, I came up with the idea. It's like Bob Kane. Bob Kane came up with Batman, the name. He came up with the idea of him swinging through the city on like ropes, okay? He came up with the angular cape, the bat cape. That's it. That's all he did.
Didn't even come up with that. Have you seen that newly rediscovered movie, The Bat?
Yes.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Bill Finger did everything else. He redesigned the costume. He made when you think of Batman, anything Batman, chance of Bill Finger. So that's the way Stan Lee was. The
way I look at it, when the Public Eye movie comes out, it's going to be created by John Boa and Marcus Keller.
No, it's all John. Are you kidding?
But I came up with the idea. I wrote the story. I even drew the first picture of the character, but it wouldn't exist if you didn't draw it.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do.
I
think Stan still gets a bad break. I think it was much more collaborative. He was a great editor. He knew what to do with covers. I think because of the Marvel style, the artist really did kind of break down the book and write the book. They didn't write all the dialogue, But a lot of like John Romita did a lot of the plotting. He's the one who came up with killing Gwen Stacy, even when he was off the book.
Stan Lee was operating under the way that comics were done from their inception in the late 30s. In other words, the editor, the writer, that's the credit. The artist, and I love Stan. I think he's great.
The ironic thing is nobody would know who the artist was if it wasn't for Stan.
Exactly. But I'm saying that I wish Stan was a little bit more magnanimous with and he tried, Jolton. What was it?
Jolton Joseph. Yeah, no, he gave them all nicknames. He had the whole bullpen. He made them all stars.
He tried. Yes, he tried, and I have to give him credit. He did more to that than Martin Goodman did, but he's still. There's that. I don't know if any of you fellas have ever seen that Jonathan Ross documentary from
some of that, yeah.
And they, and Ross is like hammering him. Who's the one that created Spider-Man? Who's the one? Who's the one? He's like, well, I did because I had the idea. And Jonathan Ross is kind of with Ditko. It's like, yeah, but an idea without the ability to execute the idea is as worthless as a fart in the wind.
That's why in Wikipedia they have always.
I got 40 scripts written for comic books. They don't exist yet.
Exactly.
But see, that's why in Wikipedia you go look at Wikipedia who created what, and they're going to say Alfred. We'll go back to Solomon Grundy because I looked it up. It was Alfred Bester, and they give it to Paul Reinman. Alfred Bester probably had more to do with the act, like you were talking earlier, but Reinman was the first one to draw it.
Yes.
So you look at Wolverine, and it says Roy Thomas because editors are always involved. It gets murky with Julius Schwartz and Mort Weisinger.
On that one, I have to add, Marcus, if I can. There's interviews on YouTube. They're asking Herb Trimpe at a convention, who created Wolverine, and he said, well, Roy came up with the idea.
I know, and Roy's gotten killed for it because editors would never got thinking. I've read Roy came up with Len Wein and John Romita designed the costume, but the first guy to draw him in the comic was very little with creating it is Herb Trimpe, but he gets credit because that was the first one who drew him in the comic. It's just kind of an odd thing.
You could even go back using Solomon Grundy. Bester kind of cribbed a story that existed like 4 years before Grundy first appeared by the first Swamp Monster story by Theodore Sturgeon called It, which is about a guy that got killed and his body was thrown in the swamp and he comes back as a swamp monster. So Grundy is not unique. It was just he sort of cribbed it from somebody else, but he expanded upon it and made it better.
Yeah, the swamp creature, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the comics are like that. You go and find, you find the Ben Cooper Spider-Man. Did go look at that? Did he steal it? But you don't, like, as an artist, you don't really steal things. Some people do, I suppose. You just kind of remember things. Oh, this is a good idea. What if it looks like this? That's how it goes,
Who's the name of the guy that was roommates and best friends with Ditko? That was like the S&M artist.
Eric Stanton.
Because he's the one supposedly that came up with the Spider-Man.
Ditko denied it as he got more objectivist, but he did a lot of work with Stanton. He did a lot of inking on that, like kind of softcore bondage porn. It's in the books. I have it right here. The creativity of Steve Ditko.
What I heard is he actually goes through a bunch of those.
He did some of them for Stan. There's pictures of them in this book, of them in the office together. The same office you saw, John. You worked in the office together. And Stanton had a Fu Manchu and a little more bigger built than Steve, and they worked together. They worked together quite a lot. Apparently, there's some Stanton work in Spider-Man, particularly the last issues. Nobody really knows. Like, he never got credit, but
and Kate Ironwood, who was, like I said, one of the most influential people in comic books that is almost forgotten now. She's one of my early interviews. I urge everybody to check that out if you like.
I remember that interview.
I love that interview. That was a great interview.
I'm so happy that I got to talk to her. She's one of my comic book heroes. And again, she's a communist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's a communist. Yeah.
Conservatives can get along with the left. Left, you got to pretend to be as tolerant as you pretend to be. But anyway, her husband. Let me finish.
Go back. I think that Solomon Grundy could take the Hulk in a fight. I think that it would ultimately end up in like an Ouroboros.
You're Steve Ditko, Eric Stanton. I was going to back up, but she and Dean Mulaney did a biography of Steve.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
And Ditko was furious, and they had a crisis of conscience. Do we publish this book against Steve Ditko's wishes? He's very private. He wants to work to speak for him. He didn't want to, and they did research. They did everything, and then there was a flood in the
That was the big flood that killed Eclipse,
and it destroyed their all that, and they never published it. But one of the things they talked about was they actually showed the pages and the proof that Steve Ditko did a lot of this smutty art, that Steve Ditko, quite frankly, lied that he didn't do it because he was either embarrassed by it, or changed his political views later on or whatever. And Ditko was furious, so.
And Joe Shuster did a lot of that S&M art himself in the 50s. Quite a bit. In fact, it's funny, people laugh because the women always look like Lois Lane and the men always look like
Superman. That's right. I've seen some of that.
Yeah, they purposely made him look a little bit like comic book characters. Yeah, Tijuana.
Well, let's see if this doesn't destroy everything. If I find this.
Yeah, but
you wonder why I know a lot about Ditko. I have all these. I somehow ended up with all these books.
But I love Ditko. I'm kind of fascinated by him. I got a lot of his later works. They call them like the
those are screeds,
The 32. Yeah, they actually kind of scared me. It's almost like the work of a schizophrenic, that you'd see like scrawled on in blood or feces in the hospital wall. But Robin Snyder sponsored him, and I guess she owns all the original artwork. I don't know if it was benevolent. I don't know if she was taking advantage of it, but Steve Ditko would go to work every day in the office, and he would make these 32-page books, they were called, and he would just work and work and work. And she said, do whatever you want, and his only demand was the paper has to be as white as possible, the ink has to be as black as possible. Let me make that big.
Steve Ditko working with Eric Stanton.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to show it too long because it's not too bad when you think about it in these days. But if Ditko drew his women like that, he'd have been better off, I think.
Yeah, but last thing I'll say about Ditko is I kind of got fascinated by him for a while.
I'm fascinated.
He's an objectivist, and he believes, like Mr. A, like if you steal something, you're a thief, and you're a thief for the rest of your life. Like it almost like there's no redemption. You could just not. You could be a thief who no longer steals, but once you steal something, it's like you can't go back to being a virgin. Once you have sex, you're not a virgin anymore. Once you kill somebody, you're a murderer. Once you steal, you're a thief. Which doesn't leave a lot of room for redemption. I'm a big fan of redemption. Without redemption, what good is society?
Objectivism is a rough philosophy if you can deal with it.
So T-Bunny, it's good to see you. How's everything?
Hey.
Sorry I didn't make Cryptids last Saturday, but I had friends over. We were playing Twilight Imperium, and it's the first game I won, so I did not want to leave it early.
Well, it would be the Saturday before last because we got one tomorrow night. So
yes, I'll be there tomorrow night.
Okay. No problem. No, when it comes to Ditko, he and Ayn Rand are kind of like in the same philosophical space.
Yeah,
but,
he got captured by objectivism.
But I mean, when you see who he ticked off, Alan Moore absolutely hated Ditko. That's how we got the Watchmen.
Well,
him
Ditko's
deconstructing Ditko. As a matter of fact,
because Ditko wanted there to be objective truths and standards, whereas Alan Moore wanted to do whatever he wanted.
And so he created Rorschach to kind of like take what he thought Ditko's philosophy was to the extreme, and people wound up loving Rorschach.
Loving Rorschach, that's right.
Yep.
I saw like an interview with him the
I
other
have
day.
no comment about Rorschach. I'm not speaking about these people that have hats.
Yeah.
I'm not saying how much I took from them.
Well, I mean, Alan Moore is still confused to this day why people love Rorschach so much, and every single time that every single time they've done Rorschach since, they've tried to destroy him.
Right.
Because there's something pure about Rorschach.
Because like many, and he's more annoying than most, like British writers, except for the ones who wrote with Denny O'Neil and Chuck on Batman, do not understand heroism, American heroism.
Yeah.
He can't understand when you're reading Watchmen and you're looking for, you're a comic book reader. We're not talking like,
Yeah.
Like I have a problem with Sopranos for the same reason. You're looking for the protagonist. Who is the good guy? Who is fighting for the guy? Who is fighting for the people? The little guy. It was Rorschach. It wasn't anybody else. The other guy was the
guy, the hero standing up for his values.
Right. The Night Owl was imposed.
Values were good.
As a hero, the Night Owl was in the Night Owl, the Batman analog was impotent, not as a guy because he banged a girl. The girl was confused and probably radioactive.
Yeah.
Dr. Manhattan was out in his own mind and out of his mind. The comedian was successfully like the Punisher, like a nasty
comedian was
guy.
Pure nihilism.
It was just Rorschach, and he doesn't understand it. Like, so you guys all like to watch The Sopranos, right? Everybody loves Sopranos, but I had trouble with Sopranos for a long time.
I never watched it. I don't like it because there's nobody to root for. There's
nobody to root for. So why do I guess your comics?
Well,
like,
see,
why do we work on the public eye so well? The same thing.
That's infected all of media in the last, last
Sopranos
15
is
years.
really well. Exactly, the Sopranos is
well
really
written, it's well acted. Everything
stories.
about The Sopranos is quality entertainment. It's just not for me because I want a hero to root for.
There's no.
I like Breaking Bad because I was rooting for him to get caught.
You're rooting for the right. I was rooting for the FBI to catch this guy.
Yeah.
And in your New York and New Jersey, you kind of know a lot of people that are dicky like that. It reminds you of your buddy that you work with and you hated him because there's a billion people like that in New York. But
the one good thing about Breaking Bad, though,
Marcus, let Tony.
Sorry, T-Bun.
I was just saying the one thing about Breaking Bad that I went back and rewatched the last episode, and Walter did not win. He lost everything.
Right.
And in the end, he also lost his illusions about himself that he was the good guy. And so by saving Jesse. Saving Jesse was the first thing he did that whole entire show that was selfless.
Yeah, I had trouble with the Breaking Bad too.
Yeah,
but I mean, when he covered Jesse with his own body,
he had it out in the first episode. He was Pride.
Yeah,
when people say, "Oh, it was an indictment of American healthcare," he would have died anyway.
Well, he was offered money to get treatment for his cancer, but he refused it.
But he also got all that money and got the treatment and still died.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, right. Let's tie it all together with Solomon. As much as I love this conversation, so I don't know if you know that this is a Hulk for Solomon Grundy, and it turned into Breaking. But I love when I love the whole winding, meandering course of conversation.
To help tie it together, let me say this. We're talking about anti-heroes and people not to root for. And for a long time, and when the Hulk was not always the hero. Was he the hero? He didn't start out as a hero. And at the end of the Peter David run, is he the hero? And the Immortal Hulk, is he the hero? And the Solomon Grundy the same. Sometimes maybe it's like an anti-hero. It's like the Submarine's anti-hero, like many of the early Marvel characters.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Were there? Because I know that there was sometimes where Solomon Grundy was downright evil, and then that one time in Starman he was kind of a good guy, but a few times like in Infinity Incorporated he was just like a baby, So what would you think? Was he always a force of evil, or was that just inconsistency over 80 years of a character?
Inconsistency. Yeah, he was meant to be a villain. He was always meant to be a villain. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give James Robinson purposely made him a good guy because James Robinson, I as much as I love that Starman series, like to me that's like the fluke of his career. I read Airboy and it's detestable.
That was pretty bad. Yeah, that Airboy's bad.
Yeah. Did you read James Robinson's Airboy, Tony?
I read some.
Unfortunately, I did. It was almost masturbatory. It was just him telling that he told his own story, but the character was just there. It didn't make there was no point to it. It insisted.
Airboy, I hate Airboy. Why did you take the job?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm not all that big of a fan of James Robinson anyway. I did like the Golden Age, but that was darker than the Watchmen, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that was too dark for me. I love Paul Smith, but I just don't get. It's hard for me. I really have a view of the heroes as heroes. I don't want them doing drugs. I don't like it's like the boys, But that's like a train wreck, though. Like the comic itself is like, it's over the top. It was on purpose. But what happens is when people take it seriously, think that's what it should be like, and you have to watch out for that.
Well, people, I think these days people don't want the aspirational hero. They don't want.
I disagree with you. I think people do, but
well, I think the creators, the people that are creating the media, don't want aspirational
the powers
heroes.
that be don't want us
But
to have
the people that are begging for aspirational heroes.
But we can have
Begging for it.
like I just finished watching Bosch, right? And that's a complicated hero. Did he always do the right thing? But it was always for justice. So we always rooting for Bosch.
Yeah.
And you could do that. And we're watching or Reacher like that stream, even though
or
that guy's
Death Wish. Charles Bronson in Death Wish.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, we all love the Punisher. Even though
those characters are visceral. It's an outlet for us because we wish that could happen, and it can't happen. We know it can't happen, but it's fun to watch.
Well, Frank Castle basically was a walking dead man in his own ideas, but he was trying to prevent other people from suffering like he's suffering because of what they did to his family. And so, in a way, that was aspirational. He's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself to make sure this never happens to another person.
It's funny because I had ideas about Frank Castle, and when Chuck took care of my channel, I was going to bring him up, but he basically he didn't know what I was going to ask. He's not a mind reader, and he basically shut down all my answers. So I never brought him up because I'm arguing with Chuck Dixon about what makes Frank Castle work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like nah, I'm not. John Romita Jr., you just didn't get Spider-Man. You know what I mean? There's some things you just keep to yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Tony.
I prefer the Shadow more to the Punisher because at least the Punisher, the Shadow knows what he is. There's no illusions to what the Shadow is. He's vengeance. He's death, pure and simple. The Punisher's like, oh, I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it so nobody else has to suffer like me. No, the Shadow's like, no, if you're bad, you're dead. That's it. I am vengeance. That's it.
You remember? I don't know if Liz is watching this from Don's books. You said that she watches my channel once in a while.
Yeah.
But me and her had a conversation about the Punisher, and she opened my eyes about it. She actually wrote Carthenus a fan letter after the. Liz, forgive me if I'm giving too much information, but she said that the Punisher is a serial killer.
Yeah,
he's a serial
I
killer.
can see that.
Victims are, and he was always a serial killer. Serial killers just don't wake up one day and be like, you know what, I'm going to get a new hobby. These people are born like that. He was a killer. That's why he excelled in war. And she said that the happiest day of his life was when his family was killed, because now it gave him an excuse to be what he always wanted. But
I don't think you would.
Like Tony said, he lied to himself.
Yeah, the Shadow, he had no family. He had nobody. So he didn't really have a reason to hide behind. He just did these things because they needed to be done. And he was entrusted, depending on which version of the Shadow, because there's two of them, but the Walter D. Gibson Shadow is vengeance. He is vengeance.
Who's the other version?
The other version is the one from the radio show. He's the one who has the mystical powers and all this stuff.
I kind of forgot.
I had an idea for a show, John. This is the ultimate, John. You can get Baron and Chuck, and they can talk about the Punisher. And you would just
maybe you can get Nolan. Bring Nolan on too.
And you just should have them talk. I wonder if they would do that.
Yeah, I'll ask. You never know until you ask, right?
Baron says nice things about you to me, so
Oh, that's
me and
nice.
Baron are like this.
I will. Man, my first talk with Mike Barron, I was like Sidney Brady on that talk show, which the light turned on. I was so intimidated, and he turned.
Oh no, there's no reason. I talked.
Mike is the most unassuming, really intimidating human being I've ever dealt with.
He's a really nice man.
Because he's a good guy, but there's just something so intimidating about him that it's like this aura and it, you know,
There's two times. If you want to laugh at me, go and watch my first time Mike Barron was on. I was a stammering fool, and then watch when Graham Nolan was on.
oh wow,
I was completely intimidated, and I was a stuttering fool when Graham Nolan was
Yeah,
on.
Graham's not intimidating either.
He must have been like that.
yeah.
guy.
Graham's got presence. He's got some heavy
But
duty
Chuck
presence.
Dixon, I was starstruck with, but he disarmed me and became like.
He is a really nice guy. DMs me why to bring we were going to SCCon, right? To bring the bourbon for the cigar thing.
Oh, Graham!
Why is he contacting me for that? I'm like his only mod, by the way. He is like,
Yeah.
and which is really
Well,
weird.
ask him to get me. I want to be on landing party. I want to talk.
I'll see what I could do. But I don't DM these guys. When I say I know them, I see them and talk to them in person. I'm not DMing them. I don't bother them during the day. And I'm like, why is he asking me?
I'm just hanging out.
And I go, because he could ask Andy. Why does he bother?
Hey,
But
T-Bug, I hate to say you, but you're being robbed. There's some guy behind you robbing you.
Oh, no, this happens to be my new housemate Scott. So
Hey, Scott.
yeah,
At least you got a beard. You got to have a beard. So,
gotta have a
Tony,
beard, man.
You got to have a
beard.
You got to Tony. You got to amp up the beard game.
I'd
Yeah,
love
look
to.
at this-
see
look at
you
this
do
Chuck
it.
in person.
Look at the
That's
beard.
my
Look at
new
the
goal.
guy.
Chuck in
That's
person.
amazing.
So anyway, let's bring this back now. First off, I want to say, how about next week we do inventors? Because I did a post today about Forge as an inventor, and I got.
Oh, I saw that post. That was interesting.
So how about we do like Steele, Reed Richards, Forge, Tony Stark,
I'm gonna find
as
that weird one.
inventors.
But who wins though? Because in that Solomon Grundy wins against the Hulk. Who do you think wins?
Oh, we were going to do that now. We were going to do that. I just wanted to throw out next week. So now let's bring it back. We'll start with T-Bunny since he's the new guy.
Yeah.
So who wins in a fight now? We're going to do Solomon Grundy versus the Hulk. And of course, everybody's going to say which version of Solomon Grundy, which version of the Hulk. And in this particular case, that's a valid thing to ask.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, I don't know, the most common version of Hulk smash.
The Golden Age version of Grundy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then versus.
Well,
so
and a
T-Bunny, what do you think?
slugfest, I think, is pretty even because Grundy's basically a zombie. He's not going to feel pain. He's not going to, slow down, or he's not going to feel like, weary. But the Hulk's got the infinite, power curve. So I don't really see how. Eventually, even Grundy's going to have to take damage. So I have to say the Hulk. It's usually the Hulk.
All right, we got one for the Hulk. Tony, I know what you're going to say. Go ahead, Tony.
Grundy can't be damaged because Grundy's not alive. He's undead. He doesn't need oxygen. He doesn't need food. He doesn't need sleep. So there's no real nothing to damage. It's essentially the immovable object and the unstoppable force. It's just going to be a never-ending battle. It's going to be an Ouroboros. It's going to be a snake eating its own tail. They will be fighting until the end of time. That's it. So I would say that they're pretty evenly matched, but I'm Team Grundy. So Grundy for me.
Marcus, what do you think?
The madder Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets, and Hulk is the strongest one there is. And that's it, the Hulk. Like, that's all those comics you read in the 70s. The Hulk is the strong. He's getting beaten. Hulk is the strongest.
Emotionally, I like them both the same, but I just think Hulk has more power. But I don't think I don't know about this immortal Hulk and this Gamma Satan.
No, I meant the Hulk.
I'm just saying I don't know about that, but I think Hulk can be killed, and if Hulk can't be killed, then to me he's a worthless character because there's no drama, there's no tension or anything like that. Like, I think when Hulk relaxes, turns into Banner, somebody should be able to behead him or something like that. Otherwise, there's no tension. Captain Marvel, Billy Batson, Shazam doesn't have a weakness because he spends most of his time as a little boy who can be killed by getting hit by a car. But anyway, besides that, I think the Hulk can beat him. But I think Solomon Grundy has, to me, in my headcanon, as long as Slaughter Swamp exists, Solomon Grundy will come back. Like, if Solomon Grundy makes his way over to Sweden and gets destroyed in Sweden, it's going to be bubbles and he comes out of Slaughter Swamp again. So, you know what I mean? So that I think the Hulk feed. But I would love to buy that comic book. That's what I would, wait.
I'd like to draw that comic book. No background.
What's
Just
that?
smashing.
What did
I'd
you
like
say?
to draw that comic book, the Hulk versus Solomon Grundy.
I just wish Peter David was alive to write it. Because that was who.
Well, what version? I think the end Peter David couldn't write. He was too woke and too leftist. But I think the middle of Peter David of the Hulk run that
I'm talking like Pantheon, era.
Pre when he ruined the Hulk book because he killed Betty. Pre-killing Betty, Peter David.
Pre-killing Betty, yeah.
Because he wrote, I read Peter David. This is from.
I know a lot of people hate on the Pantheon era, but that's my favorite era of Hulk.
I've read Peter David novels. I liked them so much, and Zodi 2, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I went bad on Peter Aquaman, I would buy. That was the one writer I would buy, Peter David, because he was a good artist too with him. So when I say he went bad, he kind of went bad.
Well, he and Wheezy are my favorites.
Wheezy's great editor, great writer.
My favorite Peter David run is his Captain Marvel run.
Yeah, I like that too. Excellent run. Yeah.
The boy Captain Marvel, and I especially like it when he put him back in the green costume.
Yeah, I remember. I got those books.
Yeah, those are good. Tony,
I like Future and Perfect. I thought that was my favorite story he wrote. I think that's really, really a cool story.
The Maestro Hulk is maybe the most powerful.
I forgot about Future and Perfect. I knew about it, but I forgot that was Peter David.
When you look up the Hulk and you look at the Hulk Wikipedia, the Immortal Hulk isn't there. He's treated like a separate character, so you don't have to speak about. That's just that one run of the Hulk that was just kind of unique, but I don't think it's canon.
Well, I'm not saying it's bad because I haven't read it. So that
it's bad until it gets too woke, It falls apart at the end, but right around it had those great Alex Ross covers, and Joe Bennett did a terrific job on a spectacular job.
And now it's Infernal Hulk, like he's in hell.
Yeah, I don't follow it now. Hulk's too big.
I don't know. I'm introducing Captain Atlas and Patriarch, but wait till you find out his weakness. It'll make up for it.
I read that. I'm not saying
you do not want to be Captain Atlas.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about making heroes that do have like weaknesses, but they're still aspirational. Is that I think the problem that people are doing today is that they're making mentally and morally weak characters rather than characters that have physical weaknesses, and so you got these all-powerful characters who have absolutely no physical weakness, but they're morally and spiritually corrupt. And that's the big issue.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
That is badass.
Yeah, great.
That's
him and Ironsides would definitely have the same hairline. So.
Yeah, I could see Ironsides and Captain Atlas just hanging out like they beat the monster. They both just sit down on the curb and crack open a beer that just somebody hands them and they're like, man, that was rough, Yeah.
Well, that sucked. I remember back in 1948,
Yeah. I don't want to. Yeah, but this. Well, whatever. And then after this,
that is cool.
I have a solo story, the story of Captain Atlas scheduled. Please support Heroic Tales Comics so I can tell all these great stories. I hate to drop Easter eggs and then leave you hanging for eternity.
Yeah.
Tony?
I'm going to send you those pages tomorrow, John.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I didn't want to be a pest. Cool. So, Tony,
awesome.
I gave Tony. So who created that, Tony? I came up with, so
Family created
we're going to stab each other. But I'll tell you right now, all kidding aside, I came up with an idea for a story called The Caper, but I kind of wanted it to be based on pulp stuff, and I don't know the pulp stuff, so I thought it would be funny. It would be fun to ask Tony if he wanted to do it. Tony wrote a story. Now let's imagine Shoot for the Moon. It blows up, and they're making a movie. And Marcus draws it for the sake of argument. All three of us created this character.
Mm-hmm.
All three of us did this. You know what I mean? Like I honestly like let's just say the John Hamm Patriarch movie comes out. Renzo's coming with me on the golden carpet, the red carpet. The character wouldn't exist without the artist. I'm not going to do the Stanley. Oh, I've always considered you. No, I created the patriarch. I drew the sketches. I drew it, but Renzo made it happen. Talk without the action is less than nothing, as the old punk rockers used to say, which is what I just said to Rand Paul. He's talking about Dr. Fauci. I said, yeah, keep talking about it. You never get anything done, though. Keep talking about it, you performative clown. I want to see this. I want to see this guy in handcuffs. But anyway, so we got 3-1. The Hulk. Let us know in the chat. What do you guys think? Hulk.
Tony has a point, but I'm not belittling your point, Tony. I'm just saying.
Oh no! Ultimately, it's who we like, and I'm more of a Grundy fan than a Hulk.
I like Grundy as a character.
Characters,
and I prefer Grundy over Hulk as a character. There's a lot more meat on that bone, but
because
we're talking about physical reality here. We're talking about somebody with an unlimited power curve. Eventually, the physicality is going to catch up. So
I understand, but Grundy is a engine of destruction himself. Like I never understood, right? If you're going to kill Superman, okay, Doomsday. Why create him? Get Grundy, get Bizarro, get the big guys that already you can see that they're big. Instead, you just create a Hulk ripoff with bone claws. That's lame. That is so lame.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
So here, type 1 for Hulk, type 2 for Grundy. I completely forgot we could do polls. So this is in the chat now. So I'm just going to test it out. I'm hitting 1 because I said Hulk. So there we go.
I did my.
Tony, you voting Hulk?
Yes, or why not? He's going to win, but
like we know so much about the Hulk, and so many people work on him. Like you were saying, you like Solomon Grundy more because as a writer, you can see that hasn't
There's
been
a lot
used
more
as
meat
much
on the
as
bones of
villain.
Grundy. I mean, I can see a lot more story possibilities with Grundy.
Sure.
If I may sound arrogant, let's just pretend the gods are beneficial and say, hey, John, you could write the Hulk or you could write Solomon Grundy. I'm taking Solomon Grundy.
John, you can make your own Solomon Grundy. Is it really trademarked or is that in the public domain?
I don't want to use any.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I know you don't. I just like.
Yeah, but a super zombie based on a 1950s, like 1920s era, bootlegger. I mean, you can make your own.
I mean, he's got like Edgar Allan Poe origins, horror movie origins, Frankenstein. He's got all of that stuff, and these superheroes too.
Right. I think a lot of that meat on that bone again has to go to Alfred Bester. That man, he's criminally underrated. Unless you're a bibliophile or vintage science fiction geek like me, you don't know the man, and it's a shame.
Or Mark Grunwald.
That man was very talented, very talented. Yeah.
So I'm going to wind this down now. We've been talking for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm going to eat some dinner, and I may or may not go live playing a solo board game later if you want to join me. So we're going to start with Cooper down here, and we'll make our exits. Cooper, anything you want to push? Anything you want to talk?
FMC Arena just started up last night, Thursdays on 7. If you have an FMC campaign, feel free to come on. I've got next week will be Galaxy Memorial guys, Levi Skeen and company. So if you have an FMC campaign, feel free to make sure to hit me up on X or at Fund My Comic. And also tomorrow we're doing Cryptids and Conspiracies. Oh gosh, the name just flipped right out of my head. The guy who directed
Stanley Kubrick.
Did Stanley Kubrick direct the moon landing?
I don't think he directed the moon landing, but I think he created Solomon Grundy.
Okay, there you go. But that's going to be Cryptids and Conspiracies. Did Stanley Kubrick, direct the moon landing, and just a community service is still available on FMC. Finishing up the last 4 pages now. About to talk to Critical Blast about getting this comic finally printed.
Oh, that'd be awesome! Can't wait.
So we're I'm about to have a proof to send around, and you're on my list of people to
cool.
preview it for me. So
Cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just talked to Phil Diaz. He's gonna.
Mm.
We're working on. I miscounted the pages, so we're trying to get the double page spread lined up in
Uh-huh.
the Christmas special. So we're gonna put it in an extra page.
Well,
And,
I would go with Phil, except Critical Blast has more cover options right now.
right.
And so,
I want to work with Critical Blast. RJ from Critical Blast is a great guy.
Yep.
I really like him, but I just wanted to work with Phil. I want to work with both. Guys, make me successful enough that I have these options.
Steven Silhouette, I am aware that interview is supposed to be fake, but
Yeah, we'll
let's
talk
just
about
say
that tomorrow. We'll talk about that
Yeah.
tomorrow.
we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah.
But but anyway, I'm hoping to have a proof real soon. Also, it's so exciting to have even if it's just a proof. But check out community service. Oh, Tony, what do you want to say? Anything?
Watch T-Bunny, please. Watch Marcus draw stuff. I don't know if you're still drawing stuff, Marcus,
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
but please support Sean.
So
I could use your support on Kickstarter, please.
I am now on drawing enemies with Omer Glitch. We don't. What time is your show on tomorrow, guys?
7
7 o'clock.
7. So now this starts at 9 Eastern time because Omer's Eastern. So you could watch T-Bunny show Cryptids and watch me draw something. We don't know. It's drawing enemies. So Omer likes to draw villains. I like to have guests, but we're not pushy about it like the previous show. So we may have a guest, we may not. But we sit and BS and they make fun of people. And John has been on. Maybe I'll ask you. Maybe you'll be on one week, Cooper. We can, if you're still promoting your book.
Yep. And I have some villains you can
send
draw.
us a picture of the villains. We'll draw your villains. It worked out last time when you were on.
Yep.
I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
You should draw Simon Grundy, Mark.
And I don't push this here because it's not the way to push it. But I do have a Ko-fi. You can tip me, but I'm not. That's not really using it for tips. You can buy original artwork of the things I do draw.
You can't buy that public eye page. I want that. So
I didn't put any public eye stuff. Doesn't go on there. You get first dibs. That's all like the drawing stuff. I've never really sold.
It's funny. The secret project. The artist said,
when I'm finished with the cover, we'll talk about it. Oh yeah, that's a cover I did for T-Bunny. Cool. It started out on the studio. I drew the main character, and then he asked for the characters around it, like an Avengers type of cover, and that's what I came up with.
Yeah, it's like Captain America.
Yeah. I really love doing it. It was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Look at that. Cool. That's awesome. The guy who's working on the secret project, he says, "Do you mind if I sell the original pages? Because he still draws pen and ink." I said, "Yeah, sure, but I get first dibs." Especially,
no, you get first dibs. We'll talk about
especially page 10. And he's like, "All right, yeah."
We'll see.
But that's dangerous to start buying original art. Yeah. That's so. I got Heroic Tales.
I had to meet Marcus in the parking lot like a drug deal.
Yeah, at a quick trip. Yeah, I had a cup of coffee and I'm giving him about 45 minutes from here.
So if I could, I got the Christmas special on Kickstarter. We need to make $99 more to make it hit the goal.
I'll see if
could use more than $99. It's expensive to make comic books, and it's happening. It's happening. I already put in the print numbers. I got the numbers of how much it's going to cost. That'll come out of the campaign. Send that over to the Diaz brothers. We'll print it out, and I'm going to start hitting the convention circuit. And hopefully, I can sell more on the convention circuit when people actually see. It's a gorgeous comic, guys. It's a lot of fun. I love Christmas. People seem to like King Fu. This is his first solo story. So 3 years from now, when Simo Lee is playing King Fu in Marvel, telling me I'm a racist, you could at least have his first appearance right here.
There you go.
Oh, Tony's gone. And tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'm going to do Avengers 166, Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite Avengers issues of all time. That's Avengers Assemble. Then I'll be on at 7 o'clock with Cooper doing Cryptids and Conspiracies. And I know somebody else asked me to do something tomorrow night. I can't remember. And then Sunday, it's Sunday Comics. We're going to go to the Fantastic Four. It might be a longer episode because I might have to do the Avengers setup in Fantastic Four.
Oh, the 150, yeah.
Yeah. The wedding of the Scarlet Witch.
Right?
Yeah. So there we go. That's everything.
167. It's Avengers 167.
Yeah, Avengers 167.
Wow,
So-
what a cover.
So that's everything, and I guess it's time to say goodbye, kids. Next week we'll talk about comic book inventors. You know, I just think it's a fun topic to talk about. Okay, and remember, it's an open invite show, so anybody could join. Anybody could join. More people talk about comic books, the better. Try to keep the drama away. You know, I don't always do that, but I try.
You've done pretty well, I think.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.
Okay, good night.
Goodbye, kids.